And we're live. Hey, so anyways, tonight I thought we'd do something a little bit different. I kind of want to do a game night, sort of. I mean, normally when we do a game night, I'll make it like a Jeopardy board and play something like that, which are, by the way, really fun. I got to make another one of those. I did the Flat Earth one and I did a Younger Creationist one, but give me some suggestions if you want some Jeopardy games, because I really like the Jeopardy games, especially when we have like Landon on and we have to ask him questions dealing with astronomy or something like that, right? So this is going to be a little bit different game night. It's not really necessarily a game. I mean, 20 questions is a game. That's why I'm calling it a game night. But what I've noticed when I go into a lot of these communities is that a lot of people don't seem to like answering direct questions. I mean, they do a lot of dodging. And I think when you're trying to do something along the lines of a Socratic method, it's very difficult to ascertain a person's position when they're not willing to have an honest dialogue. And I completely understand you don't have to answer a direct question with a direct answer. Obviously, when you have a direct question, that means it can be answered yes or no. However, those are the only two direct answers to the direct question, but not the only two possible answers, right? There are indirect answers. I don't know is a perfectly fine indirect answer. That's not a dodge. Dodging is when you answer a question with something completely irrelevant to the question, especially if you're going to do it like a Modem Bailey, where you're trying to defend a position that's not difficult to defend, because of the harder position is much more difficult to defend, or a straw man, right? So we try to avoid those types of situations. So I got a couple people in here that from various groups. One of which is Philosophical Atheism, and trying to get some people from the Atheist versus Christian Debate Central group, which is, we all know, a troll group. We understand that. And just maybe ask specific questions. Like this is going to be Ask an Agnostic, since I am the agnostic. What it means to be agnostic, what it means to have my position. And the thing is when you ask questions like why are you agnostic? That's very difficult to answer is yes, no, or I don't know. But a person can ask those questions, but we're going to try to limit to yes, no, and I don't know, and kind of see where it leads us. Now, granted, nobody's going to have to hold to this after this because we are limiting how we can answer these questions. But I think it'd be interesting to see where it ends up if you kind of have to answer in that kind of format, don't you? So I've got a couple of people here. I got Mark, I've got Brian G, I've got John and Brian. So if you guys want to join us, just let me know. I'll give you the link. I'll give it on Facebook, Twitter, G Plus, or Gmail. Take your pick. Just message me, and if I know who you are, you get a link. If I don't know who you are, I will figure out who you are, and then I'll give you the link. So anyways, let's start this out here. So who wants to start first? Who wants to play the game and ask me questions first about being agnostic? First of all, let's get your guys' position on here. Brian, not Brian G, but the other Brian. What do you consider yourself? And by the way, I know the answers for pretty much questions.
I consider myself an agnostic Jefferson deist. I'll just throw 3 labels on there.
That's awesome, actually. I actually understand that. Do you want to suss that out a little bit?
Sure. I kind of I like what Thomas Jefferson did to the Bible, because it's pretty much the life and moral teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. So, I think it's quite possible Jesus existed. I'm not a mythicist. So I accept that he existed, and he was probably a pretty cool guy, more like a hippie. And I like what he taught.
Jesus was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not certain on all those divinity claims. I'm open to the possibility. So I just kind of keep searching and living my life, and hope that in the end we're kind of judged on what we do and what we pass out.
It's funny you mentioned that, because like Jefferson taught a lot about, or believed a lot about, Unitarianism, and that was the belief that Jesus wasn't necessarily a deity per se, or God the Father, the Son incarnate, but basically that Jesus was a very moral person, and that Jefferson subscribed to more of a deistic position, that there is a type of deity, but it's non-Trinitarian, which is a very different point of view than most Christians have today, right? Nowadays, if you're not a Trinitarian, a lot of Christians don't consider you to be Christian, which is kind of ironic, because some of the more Christians in our community are non-Trinitarians, and yet they're fully accepted. It's weird, right? I mean, I don't care one way or another. I don't have a dog in that fight, but so I get what you're saying for a Jefferson deist.
And I will throw this on there. I will call myself a Christian, because Christian means Christ-like to me. And I think I try to be very much like Christ. But, I'm kind of an oddball. I kind of have my own walk of faith. So I'll just put it that way.
But you don't subscribe to Christ being of any kind of divinity?
Yeah. So pretty much a lot of people are like, yeah, I just don't have enough reason to accept those claims, but I don't also deny those claims. So that's why I throw in there the whole agnostic, because I really can't. I just think there's not enough information to evaluate those claims.
Okay, so again, I'm not into labeling other people. All I do is I give them the tools to label themselves if they want to accept it or they're not. It doesn't make a difference. What you're describing to me, I would put under what's called evidential agnosticism.
That might be what I am then. I'll look into it.
So you might want to look into that. All right, we got Athena jumped in real quick. Athena, you want to like jump in real quick on even though I know your positions as well, but
well, I mean, sorry. Like for me, I would say I'm agnostic, but I'm also, I guess, an atheist, because the more I learn, the more I see what goes on in the world. I'm like, okay, either God is an asshole, doesn't care about us, or he's out for coffee.
Well, do you think that God could be out drinking? Maybe.
Hey, if he is drinking, it explains the state of the universe. He's like, I don't know. I'm just being silly, but yeah, I'm just.
Shannon asks, "What am I?" That's not a yes or no. I don't know question, but I can answer. I would say I don't know if I had to like answer that one or the three. But let me give her the link to get in here real quick if she wants to join, even though it's late for her. But anyways, Brian G. How about you? You want to like chime in real quick, and then we'll ask the other two people, and then kind of get to me, and you can ask me questions.
Yeah, sure. Basically, I am a former fundamentalist. Came from a Baptist background. Basically, the Bible is true. Everything written in King James only. So basically, I'm out of fundamentalism. I can't say exactly where I'm at based on reading your posts that I've been reading lately.
Maybe we can narrow that down for you.
Yeah.
We're gonna put you as a flat Earth young creationist at the moment, and then kind of
God, please don't.
Please don't.
We just had a wonderful conversation 2 days ago.
You just had a conversation where?
Oh, I was on your Hangout.
Oh yeah, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I cannot pigeonhole myself and say exactly where I'm at. So I just reject the supernatural claims, and I just don't have any proof or justification for those beliefs that I had. So that's basically where I'm at.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. By the way, is this Michael?
Yeah, that's me, Steve.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I see you, but you got more facial hair than I remember.
Shannon,
how you been, buddy?
That's been a long week.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. Do you want to chime in on this real quick?
I just got in, so I didn't hear the question.
Oh, basically, we're just kind of like going over kind of what we kind of label ourselves, and then we're going to be playing Ask an Agnostic. People get to ask me questions. I can only answer yes, no, or I don't know. And Shannon's been waiting for this. This is not going to be pretty. I really was resistant to give her the link for some reason.
I know. I was just about to go to bed.
There. Anyways,
I figured it was going to be a long night, so I went ahead and started.
Oh, that looks so good. What is that?
That's a cherry limeade margarita.
Oh my! Oh, dude, you don't even know how good that sounds right now.
Oh, it's freaking delicious.
Oh God, I need to get a good mixed drink. I can't drink very often, and I don't like harsh alcohol to an extent. I like my scotch, but I need to find something I can drink that tastes really good. That's not going to like upset my stomach. And a good like margarita works, or a Mai Tai or something, right?
Well, I found I can't hang out with you without booze.
Yeah, well,
that's fair.
A lot of people can say that.
I get that.
Yeah, Shannon gets that a lot too.
Totally get that.
Yeah. Shannon, have you ever been in my hangout sober?
Yeah, I'm sober now.
Why? Well, you won't be by the next half hour or so.
Oh God, we'll see if I make it that long.
Yeah. By the way, so you guys know, tomorrow we are doing another takedown. We will be addressing some of the comments that Dean Esme has made in Religion. And it's going to be brutal. So you're going to have alcohol and popcorn, because it's going to be like the Andrew Rappaport thing. I'm going to be very civil. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to be methodical in my takedown of him. So
I don't know if I can watch that.
You don't? Why would you not want to?
Because him entering my consciousness at this point is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. No, I get that. I do. A lot of people
I
probably
don't like
won't
giving
want
him attention.
I totally
at
understand that,
all.
actually. I do understand that.
Well,
I feel
yeah,
like
he's
he feeds off
beating a
it.
dead horse.
Yeah.
Beating a dead horse.
I feel like it's rewarding a child for having a temper tantrum.
No, I do understand that. And by the way, it wasn't even my idea to do this takedown, but since he did 3 blog posts on me, the last one being comical as hell, I think it's interesting to try to.
Oh, I don't blame
analyze
you.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
I get it. I get
Three
it.
blog posts. Wow, he
Oh,
wants
did you read, Athena, did you read his blog post on me? The last one?
No.
It was like, wow. It's like,
No,
it's so funny. It's like all of his blog posts on me is like, he's never even watched any of my things. He doesn't even know who I am, even though he does. I mean, we go way back. But if you would read what he wrote about me, it's like, who the fuck is he even talking about? Because it's surely not talking about me.
I mean, if you can link those, in
Yeah, I'll get him to you.
Hangouts, I don't know. This might be comical. I'll laugh a little.
All right. We'll save John for last because John's new to the group. But Mark, you want to add anything to this?
Yeah. Where do I place myself on the scale? I guess it'd have to be an unsettled atheist.
An unsettled?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
I mean, let me find this one. I don't believe there's a God, but according to all the arguments that we've had a rash of lately on Page on Moderate and admin on, I'm kind of questioning what label I want to apply, if I want to apply one.
No, that's fair. No, you know what? A lot of people, again, when you label yourself, I think it's a very personal thing. I think that you want to convey the most amount of information to a person without having ambiguity. And that's just personally the way I look at things, right? And if people want to take a certain label, they're more than welcome to. It's completely up to them. My position has been for years, don't label other people based upon your understanding of these terms, right? Because certain people don't take upon certain terminology the same way. Like I don't label myself a skeptic, even though I'm skeptical, because I know what that word means in philosophy as far as skepticism, right? And so I don't prefer to take that word. Not that I'm not skeptic. I mean, I am in some degrees, and I'm definitely skeptical. But I just avoid that label sometimes. But when people label themselves skeptic, I'm perfectly fine with it. I know what they mean by it, and I understand. I don't judge them for it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We've talked about this. I just labels get in the way of conversations.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of it is more, what is your positions? And it's very difficult to find out what your beliefs are when people talk in negative terms. I don't believe this. I don't believe that. Well, that's great, but it doesn't tell me what you believe in. It just makes a difference. But anyways, John, welcome. You're kind of new. You're from the Philosophical Atheist group, right?
Yeah, I've been in a bunch of the groups, but I pared it down.
Cool. Yeah, it's hard because there's so many of them, and you got to kind of pick your battles. By the way, that's a cool graphic in back of you. What is that? I really like that.
That's the logo from my old band. It glows in the dark too, but I don't think I can show you that right away.
That is pretty badass, actually. Is that like a heavy metal type band or something?
Yeah, it was kind of like I would call it progressive rock.
Like Rush progressive?
Yeah, kind of like in between, like kind of like where Tool and those guys were going, and but odd time signatures and
I love that stuff.
Lyrics and
I know
so you're one of the guys that engineers hate.
Yeah, you're into music a lot, Michael. So you might appreciate that kind of stuff because, like for example, like we're gonna quick off topic, but like when you listen to a song like Kashmir by like Led Zeppelin, how much off signatures they've used and the time tempos is ridiculous. I mean, I don't think there's a song out there that changes time signatures in so much weird things of any song in history as Kashmir. If you ever listen to it,
yeah, they
I don't
definitely
know. I don't
really
know how
cool.
their engineer didn't kill himself.
It's bizarre. It's so bizarre, but it works.
Song,
It's like 9/8, 14/16. It's syncopated. It's bizarrely brilliant.
There's actually a really good breakdown video on YouTube where somebody breaks it all down for you. It's really cool.
I wouldn't have the skill set to do that, but I just know it's brilliantly written. But anyway, so we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna play 20 questions. Matter of fact, do you want to have like, how do you want to work this? You want to go down the line? This may be interesting. Each person gets to ask one question, and I can answer yes, no, or I don't know. And Okay, what do you? Because I mean, how do you want to do this? Because I don't know how you want to learn about agnosticism or what you want to dive into my positions. But John, you want to start? You can ask as many questions you want since you're kind of new on this.
So what is the distinction you're drawing between the position of agnosticism and the position of atheism? Because as far as I can see, they're overlapping positions. They don't necessarily overlap, but they definitely have room to overlap.
Well, the game is yes, no, or I don't know. So
Okay.
I have to answer yes, I guess. I mean, there's a way to do it if that's what you're asking.
Okay, that's sorry.
I mean, do you want the detail? I mean, I could give you details if you want to like not do the yes or no. I don't know.
No, that's cool. I didn't expect to jump right in, so
I have a question.
Oh,
Yes or no question.
I'm scared of Shane.
Ha!
Hey, Reds.
Hi, Rod.
But John, I promise you, I will get to that question at some point.
Okay.
Because there is a distinction in agnosticism and atheism when you're talking about something about like the psychology as far as the not having a position on a proposition, right? Being agnostic on the proposition rather than epistemologically saying that agnosticism deals with knowledge, because in some ways it can. That's only in the epistemic version. It's not in the psychological version, which that's kind of how I'm using it, which is proper, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that.
Psychological.
I just think that
Yeah, it's a psychological position that you can't. When you say that agnosticism is a psychological position, it's basically saying you cannot evaluate the proposition in such a way to be justified to say true or false. So you're agnostic on the proposition.
Yeah, in that sense, I'm strictly agnostic.
Yeah, and a lot of people are, and I can't fault them for that, because that's the position I hold. They choose to label that atheism, which is, again, that's fine. I do have an argument out there that I don't see a justification for labeling any more atheism as do theism, because if you really look at it from a strictly logical point of view, since you're not taking a position on the proposition of theism and you're not taking a position on the proposition of atheism, you're just as much a weak theist as you're a weak atheist. There's no justification for one or the other, except if one wants to normalize atheism. That's a fair justification. That's what genetically modified skeptic does. He can rationalize being justified to the label of atheism because he wants to normalize it. I don't have a problem with that.
So would you say that both atheists and agnostics have a non-belief in God?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's
yes.
where he says overlap. There's definitely overlap there because they would both hold a non-belief in
Correct.
a God.
Yeah.
In
Dave.
fact,
Hey, Dave.
Rationality Rules actually said it was non-theism. He actually brought up that term. That's been bantered about. And so, yeah. Hello, Shanley. How are you?
Hi, Dave.
See,
Tired, exhausted.
Oh, you don't look tired. I think people make the
Really?
mistake on thinking that agnosticism is the position between belief and not belief, and they think that you are undecided whether you believe or not, and that's not what agnosticism is. An agnostic does not believe in God because they are agnostic on the proposition. If they had believed in God, they would be a theist, right? So it's not the position that you don't know whether you believe or not. It's the position that you don't hold a position that gods exist, and you don't hold a position that gods do not exist, because that is not a dichotomy between belief of one way and belief the other way.
So would you say that all atheists hold a position that they firmly don't believe that God exists?
All atheists do not believe in God. That would be a true statement.
Right, but all agnostics do not believe in God.
Correct.
Also,
and nor do all theological cognitivists. All atheists, all apatheists do not believe. Right.
So where it becomes difficult, I think, for a lot of the people, a run-of-the-mill person who's watching this, is to find the differentiation between saying I'm an atheist and that means that I don't hold a belief in the proposition that there is a God, and saying that I'm an agnostic and I do not hold a belief in the position or the proposition that there is a God, because the answer to the question is the same, right? So then we get into the minutia of it, and you can't get into that with just yes or no questions, which I think is the purpose of this hangout. So maybe I'm not the right person because I have a billion questions.
No, there's something to be said about that. That's when you get into the epistemic reasoning of agnosticism, right? If you're an evidential agnostic, then you would say, well, I'm agnostic on the proposition because there's no evidence either way, right? That's the reasoning why you're an agnostic. But yes,
where's the differentiation between agnostic and atheist then? Like, where's the line?
Well, hang on, because again, an atheist in the philosophical literature, as everybody I think here by now knows, is an actual belief that gods do not exist, right? It is not just a lack of belief. So it depends on how you want to phrase it. If you're accepting that is just a lack of belief, then you're just saying non-theism, right? Because non-theism would be weak atheism or Gnosticism or anything else. You're just taking that term non-theist and changing it into something else. That's all you're doing.
So you're saying essentially that anybody who's open to the possibility that anybody who's not taking a fully Gnostic position where they say I'm absolutely certain that no God exists would, by definition, be classified as an agnostic, but would be labeling themselves an atheist.
No, I think once you say the word certainty, you're outside the scope of the conversation.
So anybody who's saying I don't believe a God exists
is ambiguous to me, because I don't know at that point if they're taking the agnostic position, or they're taking the atheist position, or they're taking the theological cognitivist position, because that applies to that. It's like this: if somebody says they're a theist, I know they believe in God, right? That I do know,
right?
But if they say they're a non-theist, all I know is that they don't believe in God. I don't know what position they have. Just like in theism, I don't know what position they have. That's why we don't really describe ourselves generally as theists. You say, what kind of theist are you, right? That's more descriptive. Same thing with non-theist. What kind of non-theist are you? Well, I'm an atheist. I believe gods don't exist. Or I'm a atheist. I think that the term God is cognitively meaningless, which I don't think is really a great position. But I'll have a discussion on one of these days. But by the way, Reds, welcome.
Welcome. Do you want to know my solution to all of this?
Yeah, become a hedonist, Satanist, rocket launching lover, non-flat earther dude like you.
Listen. Okay, the fact is that I asked General Motors to paint 666 on the side of my Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 1LE edition, but apparently this whole not having enough money thing was really a downer to them. But you know what? Fuck them anyway.
How do you not have sponsors, dude?
I know. That's what I said.
I don't get it. So, like SpaceX loves your shit. Why don't they sponsor you? They got money.
No. Okay. Well, anyway.
And on top of it all, fuck those three little pigs, right?
Yes, exactly. You know what? You're just getting me all pissed off.
I bet you stealth.
Anyway.
Oh God! Don't get more.
Did you get your shit kicked yet?
I have given up bacon for this. Anyway, moving on.
You know what? You performed more animal sacrifice than any of us here because you killed 3 pigs.
It's
hey, Steve.
I obliterated the shit out of those guys. They were vaporized.
Now let's all just admit right now that we would love to see Reds on a television commercial pointing at his sponsor saying, now these motherfuckers are great.
I would be down for that. Sure, why not?
Yes. Welcome to DeWalt Ladders, the official ladder of We Don't Fucking Suck.
You know what? I think that's actually a brilliant campaign. We don't fucking suck.
Yeah,
do you remember?
It's great.
Do you remember
I could be on
and Crazy People?
Yeah. I could be on on TV saying the smart car, the official car of, hey man, I need to borrow your truck again.
Because as somebody points out, attack helicopters need love too.
Exactly. So I used to call myself a weak atheist, and then I realized that there was a lot of baggage with labels. So what I decided to do, which I guess a lot of people seem to agree, is I don't follow a label. I will tell you what my position is, and I will let you pick the word for it, because I would rather have someone classify me underneath a label where they know my position instead of constantly having to correct their straw man over and over and over.
My God,
again.
I agree with that.
It's like,
Reds
no,
is my
I didn't
fucking
actually say
people.
that.
Yeah,
Reds is my fucking people.
No, I think Reds has it right on. I mean, if I, like for example, if I say, hey, Reds, I know you don't have a God belief. Okay, but do you hold the position that there are no gods?
My position is that I do not know whether God does or does not exist. My only solid position is that your arguments for his existence suck ass.
Yeah, then I know what he means by that, right? I get his position. Now, I would call that agnostic, right? But that means nothing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to misunderstand Reds.
Yeah.
So am I then, Steve? Like, would you classify me as agnostic? You know.
Well, let me play this game with you quick. Yes, no, or I don't know.
Let's play a game. Okay, let's do it.
I don't want to dive right. I don't want to go too deep, right?
Do it. Go deep, Steve. Go deep. Let's go deep.
Please don't say that. Okay, so let's start off this. In science, do you hold to methodological naturalism?
Yeah, in science.
Okay. Okay, good.
Otherwise, what the fuck's the point of it?
No, dude, I'm telling you. Dean doesn't agree with
that.
Don't
compare me to Dean.
But there are people that do.
I'll set your house on fire.
There are
You're going to get triggered, Steve.
Yeah. There are people that do not subscribe to that, which is fine, but I like.
And they can't do science, but okay, go ahead. Next. Yeah,
All
go
right.
next.
Do you hold to philosophical naturalism?
I don't necessarily know if I do or not because I don't know enough about that proposition. I'm a psychologist, not a philosopher. I'm just learning philosophy so.
Do you hold that everything that exists is natural?
Everything that I'm aware of in the purview of my ability to perceive cognitively is natural, yes.
But you're kind of hedging the question because you're saying what I know, but unfortunately, there's always things we don't know. There's always uncertainties, right? So do you hold the belief that it is probably more likely that everything has a natural explanation? Or
yes.
Yeah, okay.
High degree of probability.
So I would consider you to be a naturalist then, right? Because I don't think you generally assign the really strong possibility that there's supernatural causation for anything.
I very much doubt it. Yes. Yeah. I allow myself room to be proven wrong, but I would say that I very much doubt it, and I would fall on the side of always leaning in that direction. Yeah.
Okay, and that's fair enough. I would basically say that if you kind of hold to to philosophical naturalism, that entails philosophical atheism. You can't be a philosophical ontological naturalist without being a philosophical atheist. It just doesn't follow rationally. So
where does my room for allowing the fact that couldn't ever be certain whether there is or is not a God fit into that?
I don't think
what differentiates me and you?
Yeah, it doesn't play in at all. We all whenever we have a belief, we all go in with that belief knowing that we could be wrong, right? We always go in saying, you know what, beliefs can be wrong. Knowledge can't be wrong, right? Knowledge always has to be true, but not beliefs, right? That was my what I wrote on the principle of attribution and retraction. If I'm wrong about my belief, then I was wrong about it. But I'm not wrong about knowledge. I either have knowledge or that I was wrong about having knowledge, right?
Sure.
Okay, so
you would classify
you could be wrong about this. Sure.
You'd classify me as an atheist, even though I say I could be wrong. So what differentiates you and I? Just based on beliefs. I'm not talking about philosophical knowledge, based on what you know about how I ascribe my beliefs and what you know about how you ascribe your beliefs.
Sure.
What differentiates me and you?
That's a great question. By the way, we got Ocean coming in. The difference being is that I would say that you hold a belief that there are no gods. Now, you allow for the opportunity or that the possibility exists, right? But you do it in your mind. If somebody says, do you believe that in the universe there are no gods? You would say, yeah, I have a belief that there are no gods. Now, you could be wrong on that, sure. I don't have that belief.
You believe that there are gods?
No. I have the belief I have no belief either way. I don't believe that there are gods, and I don't believe that. I don't hold the belief that there are gods, and I don't hold the belief that there are not gods.
But isn't that similar to mine? Because I'm allowing room for the fact that I admit that there's a possibility that there could be.
No, it's not the same. You hold a belief. I don't hold the belief. There's a huge difference between I believe X and I don't believe X. Right? You actually believe.
You're suspending judgment.
Yes, exactly what it is.
Whereas I'm saying I'm willing to assert that I think that my judgment would be that there probably aren't. Probably being a very important.
These are all probabilistic things. I don't think we go under.
But you're not willing to say that there probably aren't.
Oh, I'm willing to say there's probably not. Sure.
Okay, well then what the fuck just happened?
Steve is an atheist now, guys. You heard it here from me.
There's a degree
of you and me are answering questions the same way, but you're an agnostic.
No, we're not,
and I'm an atheist.
Because your probability is a lot higher than mine, right? Let me
How do you know?
Because you're willing to say there are no gods. You make that claim there are no gods.
You just said there's probably not, and I said
but in a smaller degree. For example, let me give you an example.
There's no way to judge that degree.
If we look at beliefs are a gradient, right? And let me give you an example why. Suppose I have a deck of cards.
Why are you putting me higher than you? I understand that portion, but why are you putting me higher than you on that gradient? Based on what metric are you making that decision?
If you have a deck of cards, right, and I shuffle them, and I take the top card and it's red.
She understands the probability. I think that she's asking.
I studied inferential statistics.
I'm explaining for other people, Ocean. Hang on. Okay. So if I show the top card and it's red, would you say that it's more likely that the next card is going to be black?
If you show the top card, then there's one less red card. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's just a small amount. But if they say, Steve, do you believe that the next card is black? I'd be like, no. Right,
but it'd be stupid because it's probably the probability.
Yes. Would you say that it's probably going to be black, Steve?
No.
Okay.
I would say that
You're
is
gonna-
slightly
but you're
more
willing to say that
probabilistically black.
Well, hold on. You're saying that there's probably no gods, though.
Yeah.
But again, by slight amount, and again, it can vary.
Well, so
back
what's
and
the
forth.
slight?
Well, I
Yeah.
would put it between myself. I mean, my preumbra is basically 40 to 6%. Some days I go either. I mean, that sounds like it's going to sound weird. I go either way some days.
I'm going to have that street epistemology conversation with you about certainty.
Yeah, no,
I'm going to go get booze in a minute.
I think it varies. I think it varies a lot. Some days I'm like, okay, a little bit more on the right side, a little bit more on the left side. I think we can vary on our beliefs because I do think it's on a scale. And I certainly think that classical logic sucks for beliefs because I think that is a lot more nuanced than that. I think that you need to use a different kind of system to actually.
I'm still confused about the scale though. So you would say that I fall fairly firmly atheistic from the philosophical perspective, but you don't because you're willing to suspend belief, even though if somebody asked the both of us, if somebody asked me and you the same series of questions independently, put you in one room and put me in another room and asked us both the exact same series of questions, there about whether or not there is or is not a God and our degree of confidence to whether or not there is or is not a God would probably fall fairly similar on that spectrum.
Similar,
like
but not exactly.
yeah, but not exactly. But where does the exactly factor in
Because
to the decision
sure.
of whether you're an agnostic or an atheist? Because if the minutia is, then it just comes down to I feel like adopting this moniker as opposed to this moniker has a very clear definition, and that is why I'm adopting it.
Okay, the proposition. Let's say the proposition of theism is at least one God exists. Okay.
Okay.
You would answer that no, as an atheist. That
I would
there are
answer
no gods.
probably not.
Okay, well, again, it's kind of you're hedging your thing there. These are all probabilistic type situations. We have no
But you-
certainty.
So you would answer what? I suspend judgment
Yes.
because I can't give a clear and definitive answer. So would I. I would if the only options are yes or no to that question or suspend judgment, I would probably suspend judgment too, because that's not a fair proposition because I am not egotistical enough to say that I know everything about how the universe operates.
Hang on, you just changed the propositional attitude. You just moved from belief to knowledge. No, this is not about knowing whether gods exist or not. This is, do you hold a belief? That's it. Beliefs can be wrong. You don't have to.
Okay.
There's
So
completely different.
no, I don't believe it. No, you're right. I don't believe it. So you're saying that
None of us believe it. We all don't believe. It's whether we believe the opposite.
Why am I confused? Like none of us believe that. You're one of us, so you say you don't believe it either.
Because
But you and I are
don't
different.
hold the belief that there are no gods. You hold the belief that there are no gods. There's a distinction there.
But okay. So if somebody asks
He
you,
holds the beliefs that there are probably no gods.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I'm not. Maybe I wasn't clear.
that can change. That can change for me.
I think that the word probably is kind of throwing everybody a curveball.
Yeah.
That it's like I don't know if you can actually have. Maybe you can, but a probably about a belief doesn't make very much sense to me because I think that there's a point where you're looking at where you examine the perspective that you have in yourself, and it's either you hold it or you don't ultimately.
That's
like
fair.
you might lean one way or the other, but either you have this position or you don't have the position.
Again, I think the way
I think that the probably that's sneaking in is about like the willingness to actually make the claim out to other people and on the risk of being wrong.
It's about intellectual honesty, I think.
I'm kind of with Ocean here. The probability is muddying the waters.
It is.
Like, okay, like nobody can actually know whether gods exist or not if they in a way that they can meaningfully
That's why I'm
tell
temporal agnostic. Yes.
So everybody's agnostic.
So they can't meaningfully
no, they're not.
No,
I guess
no one can know. So
No,
we're all
that's a very.
agnostic.
Hang on.
Wait, first off, I'm not.
But we can't figure out why.
Yeah, actually,
I want to finish my point.
go ahead. But I want to get back to is I think that is a very.
I'm not allowed.
When people say that we're all agnostics, it's completely wrong because people do make. If you assign a truth value to that proposition, you're no longer agnostic. Period. And Ocean says it's true. He's a theist.
But
Right. I hold the belief that there are. That it's like and that's when I do like try to like honestly self-examine.
You're a
and be
theist.
like, all right, where? Right. I am so much more of a theist than most theists. But when you get into the examination and you're like, all right, so what do I hold without like the choice of it? Like if I can choose one position or another, and like I think that you can be convinced one way or another, but it's like when you get down into an honest self-examination, you're either on one side of the fence or the other. The probably, I think, comes in when it's knowledge. It's the knowledge aspect sneaking in when you're trying to express somebody with the confidence of actually like putting it out there, rather than it's when you're talking about probably you're in your mind, you're expressing it in the way of making a bet rather than expressing like what your position is. So,
I agree with you, however, with one caveat. Look at it is all how the proposition is expressed. If you say that proposition of theism is false, I would label that as an atheist, right? You're saying there are no gods, right? So you would say yes to that proposition. I think Shannon would say no to that proposition, but an agnostic would say no to either the proposition that the gods do exist and to the proposition that gods do not exist. Well, I think Shannon wouldn't say.
But there's a framing of what the proposition, like, because you can frame that proposition in terms of what you know, and you can also frame that proposition in terms of what you believe. And I think that's where a lot of the crosstalk is happening in like a lot of these conversations.
But agnostic isn't the middle ground between I believe and I don't believe. That's not what agnosticism is, because in classical there is no middle ground. Either you believe the gods exist or you don't.
You believe the gods exist or you don't, and then you also believe that they don't exist or you don't.
Yeah, like me. I take the position of a Gnostic atheist. I don't believe that a God exists, and I do believe that it's possible to demonstrate to a reasonable degree of certainty that they're made up entities by looking at human history.
The problem, I hate to go down this rabbit hole because I know people are going to kill me. The problem, and
you're going to chase that, aren't you?
I'm going to chase
that. If I haven't killed you yet, Steve, I'm probably never going to.
just because
like a rabbit just ran across the conversation, and Steve is like a fucking cougar right now.
I said a goddamn nice thing about Shannon, and now she's never going to let me fucking live it down.
Yeah, that one time that Steve said that thing.
So
I'm gonna run shit.
I have to. Should I chase this down, Ocean? I don't have to.
I think that we're in a productive space right now, and I think that we're almost concluding it. And then I think that we could, if you wanted to chase down that claim, then you can chase down that claim. But I think that's a good claim to bookmark and be like, all right, Steve's going to have this discussion with this guy in a second.
This guy. Yeah, you guys don't.
I don't know who he is. I have no idea who he is.
He's an enigma.
But I think that to point the question back at Shannon again, like if you wanted to as far as labeling yourself, whether or not you're an agnostic or an atheist.
That's a thing for me. Maybe I am an agnostic and I just don't understand the label fully.
Right. So the question to find out would be is in examining yourself and to your instincts, that thing that says I, that doesn't necessarily have a choice in the matter, does that believe there are no gods? Or does that not hold a position?
That's a good. I mean, that's the way I would frame it. Yes. I see. If you frame it differently, Shannon, if you ask the question,
let her think about it. Let her think about it.
But yeah, it's a good way of framing it.
No, I think I know the answer to that question. I would say that it based on every god that every proposed god that I've been exposed to, it believes that none of them exist. Mm-hmm. None of the proposed gods that I've been exposed to. And that psychologically because they're the only types of gods that I've been exposed to and I'm familiar with, I would reject them probably outright. So however, the part of me, no, it's not even that I'm holding out. The part of me that's intellectually honest and the part of me that understands that I don't know everything there is to know and ever will, and ever could be known about the universe, recognizes that doesn't mean that that's not the only conceptual, that the conception of God that's conceivable. And I'm not naive enough or egocentric enough to reject the infinite number of propositions that could be made for those gods, considering that one of them could be true and just aren't within the purview of things that I'm already aware of. So,
but I think everybody holds that, right?
I super appreciate the subtlety that you're expressing this because
no, she's not wrong. I mean,
it's honest. It's honest. So I would say if you're answering that question based on everything that you know, right, everything that I know right now about every god that has been proposed to me, then yeah, I would reject it. But that if that doesn't leave room for me to say, okay, that there still could be,
So
That's not fair.
Psychological.
Let me do this for a second. So
do it.
Do it.
With because I would say that you're an atheist with respect to like the classical theist entity.
Well, that's not fair. You're an atheist in the classical theist.
I am, yes.
But that's not a fair way of putting it, Ocean.
I know.
I saw you sneak.
I'm making a point. All right. Don't think I was going to end it there. So you're an atheist in the respect of that classical theist, and there's a lot of there's some gods that I would consider myself an atheist to as well. And in the context of what like most philosophy conversations are being had, you'd probably be labeled atheist in that context. But the position that you're holding seems to be, it's got more perspective than that, and that in the context of just like the general conversation, you seem to lean more into an
philosophically,
kind of an agnostic. You're straddling the fence, even with the fence straddling.
No, well, it's in philosophy even. Is it not just either the acceptance or rejection of a proposition? I've rejected every proposition that has been put in front of me thus forth. But does that mean that there are not potentially an infinite number of propositions that could be put in front of me that are similar?
Right, and just to say that you're not an atheist until you reject all of the unknown propositions.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. That's not what I don't think. That's not what atheism is.
Right. I don't.
So atheism is the rejection of all propositions that have been put, or is it the rejection of all potential propositions?
No, I would say this.
Well, then what is it?
Atheism would be that you hold a belief that there are no gods. Simple as that. I think there needs to be qualifiers, right? If I say it is true or false, your name is Shannon. Is that true or false?
True.
As far as we know. I mean, you could have a pseudonym and probably.
No, it's legit, Shannon. But I'm an idiot. My name.
Okay, so that can answer true. If I say there are no gods, is that true or false?
To me, I would probably say that it's true.
Yeah. Okay, then you're a strong atheist. I mean, you're a philosophical atheist. There you go. Boom. And that's all there is to it. You hold the belief.
Yeah.
Now, why aren't you? If somebody asked you that same question, so let's get off B. I'm an atheist. It's signed, sealed, delivered. I'm an atheist.
Damn right.
Shannon is an atheist. God damn it, I'm an atheist.
You are.
Who knew? Who would have guessed?
Yeah, big shocker.
Hey, real quick, Steve.
Yes,
I'm gonna have to let you chase me down the rabbit hole on my proposition later.
I will. Oh, trust me, I will. Can you? I'll send you my blog later on what I wrote on that particular topic as far as agnostic atheism being nonsensical in the weak case. Myself and Matt Dillahunty even spoke on that. And I made sure he was clear. I wanted to clarify his position on this because he told Anthony Magnabosco very clearly that he said even he disagrees with Ian Cherry. It's the way it's written that he feels that agnostic atheism in the weak case is nonsensical, and I think he's exactly right. And I've been saying that for a very long time. So,
you know me, I'll come armed with my citations.
Yeah, not that I'm name dropping Matt Dillahunty, but I mean, if Matt Dillahunty is not an idiot, and here I think he's put a lot of reasoning into why. I came to the same conclusion. So have other people.
So I want to ask a question about why you're different from me now, though, because that's where I get.
I'm a guy.
Oh my Jesus Christ! All right, so
clearly. I don't.
So if somebody asks you the same, like if somebody asked you the same question, so if essentially what you're saying is, if somebody asked you, do you believe there's a God? You'd say, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But if I'm being honest, I would say the same thing, right?
Well, no, because you do know, you have a belief that there's no gods.
I have a belief that there's no God.
Then that's it.
So do you. So do you, though.
No. I don't have a belief that there's no gods. I do not. There's a different. Again, you're not seeing the negation there. You hold a belief that ontologically, meaning in the universe, the being, there are no gods.
You talked her into stating it that way, but she said over and over again that she's not certain and that she's leaving.
She doesn't have to be certain. Certainty has nothing to do with it.
Well, yeah, but just because you don't believe, I can say it's much easier to be concrete. I don't believe that the character Yahweh as described exists.
Right.
Okay, but do you believe that there's no Yahweh?
In the sense that the character in the book is Yahweh and represents the totality of what Yahweh is, I believe there's no Yahweh.
Okay. Do you believe that there are no deities at all? The Yahweh you'd be a local atheist, right? A local atheist would say, I'm atheistic to this particular deity, and that's fine.
But for the most part on planet Earth, Yahweh is the deity we're dealing with because that's the
generally speaking.
That's the number 1, 2, and 3.
Hi, we should talk.
But do you want to take? Yeah. By the way, you don't want to get into Ocean's
Hey, Steve.
Oh dear Jesus!
But real quick,
but that's what I'm saying though. If someone comes to me and says, what God do you believe in? I can say I don't believe in any of them. And if they follow that up with, so then you know there's no God, then I'm like, whoa.
No. That's a different proposition.
That's the conversation that happens.
Hang on. Why is it you're willing to say you believe that there's no being named Yahweh, but you're not willing to say you believe there's no deities at all? So you're a local atheist.
Because I read the book and I find.
Why can't you? So you're agnostic.
He's speaking from a perspective of being
compatible with itself.
He's what, Ocean?
I think he's speaking from a position of being informed on this particular claim. I think that's the point that he's making.
Right.
So I'm saying
he's not speaking from a position of being informed on other claims.
But
with this particular claim, he's coming from a position that's informed, and he's deduced that no, I don't believe.
No, that's perfectly fine. That's nothing wrong.
Or I believe it is not, rather.
Right. But when it comes to global atheism, how many people actually hold that there are no gods? By the
Christopher, you got some popcorn going on with you?
Yeah, you popping popcorn, dude?
Yeah. Somebody's really staticky.
I think it's.
Yeah, might want to unplug your mic and plug it back in.
Yeah, how's my volume, by the way? Is it really annoying?
You're good, man.
Yes,
You're good.
Yeah. So, but Shanna asked me a question. I never got a chance to answer about what it is.
Yeah, God damn it,
Yeah,
Steve.
I never forgot, and I'm not ignoring you.
Jesus.
I don't feel justified to weigh in on that proposition to say I believe there's no gods or not, and I believe in doxastic involuntarism. Right? I don't believe we choose our beliefs. I believe they choose us in that regard. Right? I don't think we can will ourselves to believe anything, and so for whatever reason, I don't have that belief that there are no gods, and so I can't say I believe there are no gods because I don't have that belief. I don't have a justificatory reason to hold to that. Right?
Okay, so you and I sound similar. Like the more
I don't think so. You actually hold there are no gods. I don't hold that position.
So you think that there are gods? You think that there are gods?
No, I don't have a position either way.
Well then fuck, Steve.
I don't know what is confusing.
Well then
I'm
fuck.
with Steve on this. I don't know either way. Or don't have a belief either way.
And I'm glad you put it that way, because look, when we say I don't know, we're not talking about knowledge. What we actually mean is I don't know how to answer the question about belief. I don't know. I can't assign a value to it. When people have this weird thing about Gnosticism dealing with knowledge, and in a very weak way it does, because the original form of agnosticism was Henry Huxley's version, and it was the position that neither an atheist or theist are justified to have a discussion either way. And it's contingent upon what was called the gnosis, or the Gnostics of the time, which he thought were just people that thought they had a unique knowledge to deity, which he didn't feel like they had, right? So there was something along the lines of knowledge. But only a Huxleyan agnostic says, oh, well, no person can claim knowledge of God exists or not, right? It's unknown. I'm not a Huxleyan agnostic. I'm a temporal agnostic, which means that I don't believe at this time anybody has knowledge of God. But you know what? It's not set in stone. Maybe somebody does. I just don't hold that belief that they do.
Holy shit, that sounds like me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by the way, MG, I like Steve, but he talks too much sometimes. I'm sorry, MG.
I'm trying to shut him up. I'm trying to shut him up.
Go ahead, Ocean.
We've been trying for fucking a year.
Well, it is an agnostic, and I'm the only agnostic in the room. What do you want?
Well, it sounds like you just described most of the people in the room from what I heard everyone say so far. So
the people that you say are atheists.
The best term to actually clarify this, I actually responded to your blog when you posted it in the Philosophical Atheist group, Steve. I posted that a term that I guess would help clarify at least my position would be epistatheist. I have one that has no belief either way in regards to theism.
How does that change? How does that differ from being agnostic on the proposition?
You take away the knowledge claim
because it discounts the problem over people who get confused between knowledge and belief. Pista, Greek, only has regards to belief,
but they
not
mean the same thing, right? Then, because I mean, agnosticism.
Depends on who's using the word.
Well, hang on. But agnosticism, in this case, when we're talking about when we're talking about agnosticism on proposition, we're not saying anything to do with knowledge. What we're just saying is, I don't have a belief either way. Right? I don't know how to answer that question. So psychologically, I'm agnostic on the proposition. So how is your version of whatever word you use different than agnosticism with saying I don't have a position either way?
Because as you established earlier, you established that it had at least the term agnosticism in its origination actually had some relation to knowledge and in addition to belief. In that regard, then the confusion can come in because the term is actually muddled, especially colloquially.
Why don't you call it like Dosasticism or something? Then
wait, somebody in the live chat brought up a point. I'm going to interrupt this and bug at you, Steve.
Yeah.
That Tyler Durden pointed out that you hadn't answered the same true-false question that you asked Shannon, which I think that's true.
What was that?
That you asked the question, well, do you believe in, are there gods, true or false?
And I said I suspend judgment on that.
You would answer, well, you wouldn't answer.
You can't answer I suspend judgment.
Sure you can.
You know, you made me pick true or false, motherfucker. You
hang on.
Wait. So
you do not have to answer true or false. You can suspend judgment on a proposition. That is what agnosticism is, the suspension of judgment.
Well, then I'm agnostic.
Okay.
I guess.
That's because I think you're trapping.
You don't have to answer true or false.
Is that all atheists, it seems like this is my issue with it, is that all atheists who are intellectually honest, if they answer the same series of questions, you would have to define themselves as agnostic and atheist, and then there's no need for atheism to even exist unless you're. Okay.
Lucifer Almighty's in the live chat. He's an atheist. He would answer that question would be false.
Which is why I said unless
he's not actually honest.
Strongly Gnostic. Like anybody who would leave open any possibility that there might be a God would have to be an agnostic.
No. I don't think it has anything to do with leaving open the possibility at all. Right?
This is exactly why I choose to sacrifice a label. Call me whatever the fuck you want at this point.
We know about your enemies. No, but leaving
right? That's why I hate all
Shannon, I can say I believe there are no gods, but I'm leaving open the possibility. I'm still a strong atheist if I do that. There's nothing wrong with that. A strong atheist is more than welcome to say I believe there are no gods. But you know what? The possibility.
What about saying I do not believe in gods?
But again, framing anything in the negative is just. It doesn't really tell me anything about a person's belief.
I'm also not a plumber.
I'm also not. Yeah, okay. I'm also not a cow.
Do you believe in plumbers?
Fair enough. But the thing is,
no, Shannon.
You don't believe in plumbers.
Cows exist?
It's been a problem.
Listen, I believe in plumbers except for the ones in porn. They don't ever fix the fucking sink.
The man delivers pizza and then gets a tip.
That's fair. I've done a lot of research.
The problem is that God is a nebulous term to begin with. It means a different thing to almost everybody, and for some people it means a vague, ethereal something, and for some people it means like this guy that they love, and everybody's got a different definition. So it's really hard to pin down whether I believe in God if I'm in a conversation, whether I believe in God or not depends on what you're defining.
I would go by general usage. We've had thousands of years of context of these types of discussions, right? And even Ocean being a polytheist knows what they means by classical theism or just theism.
Do you read
but
all
I think that
as
hold the phone.
straightforward?
I think that that myself as a polytheist also knows that as far as the discussion of God goes, that theists disagree hugely as to what that fucking means.
Sure, no question about that.
And that when someone asks blankly, well, does God exist? The initial response to somebody who is aware of more than one God, or is aware of at least the construct of more than one God, is going to be, okay, which one are you fucking talking about?
Not necessarily.
And even among Christians, which one are you fucking talking about? Which two of the Christian God are you?
I don't agree with that, because there's a paper by Burton and Russell on that very thing. Am I agnostic or an atheist? Or am I atheist or agnostic? But if somebody says, does God exist? If you believe whatever God you believe in, Vishnu, whatever, you can say yes, right? You believe in a God, because the proposition of theism is at least one God of any type exists.
What I just heard this other guy say is that he's willing to, I think, John, I'm talking about you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that what you said was that you're willing to reject the idea of Yahweh as expressed in the Bible, but with other God concepts, he hasn't necessarily investigated them, so he's not willing to make the same claim on those.
But I would put as agnostic. If he's not willing to say there are no gods.
I've investigated every God. I've investigated quite a few.
Because I don't.
In the example, I think you brought up just the one.
I did bring up. You're correct. I brought up Yahweh, and you're correct in everything you said in that statement.
Real quick, 0132132 $10 super chat. Let me read this real quick. If I made a machine that could alter the physical laws of the universe, would that make me a god or just some dude with a machine? What changes if an ability you're born with instead? You want me to answer that, or you guys want to try? Because I do have an answer to that, actually.
Well, it depends. I mean, this is going to be personal, depending on how you personally define a deity. I mean, philosophers have never, to my knowledge, had a consistent thought about what defines a god. So
that's the problem when we say common, because everybody here is saying that there is no common definition.
I'm happy with, for myself. I believe I'm very fine with stipulative definitions if people want to agree for a conversation. To me, when I go into a conversation about deity, I'm fine with the basic thing of, to me, that if a thing or entity or whatever can prescriptively change the laws of the universe, right? Not describe them, but actually, and not control them, but actually change the fundamentals of the universe, I'm okay with calling that being a god, personally. You don't have to accept that.
So black hole would qualify?
Black hole has no agency.
Okay, but
that's not an entity.
But Steve, there's arguments about an omnipotent God not having any agency by default of his omnipotence.
Right.
Well, there are. You can actually have a deist.
It's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, no.
God can't have any agency because whatever he desires would happen by virtue of his omnipotence. Therefore, he has no agency at all, and God is not differentiable from lightning.
All you're doing, Ocean, is reducing it down to what's called dispensational states. Right.
God can't have intention.
That's definitely a Jack Angstrom.
Oh, it's definitely it is, but it works.
I know his argument on that.
Right, but it does equate God to lightning, which for me especially is fun. Thor, but you know.
And by the way, I happen to like Jack's arguments. I don't think that he's necessarily correct on this particular one, but I like the way he actually approaches that.
No, I think the funny thing is, I think he's correct on it. I think it's completely logical.
No, I'm not saying it's illogical. I'm not. Jack is a smart dude, and I think he makes a very good case for that.
Like he's known to do sophistry every once in a while, but I don't think he is on that one.
No, I don't think
that or the interpretation argument, like the fact that if Christians disagree with one another, there's no God.
Oh, I know Jack. Jack is a master of sophistry. Trust me, but I don't think he's sophistic on that particular argument. That's why I think it's actually not a bad argument, actually. But that kind of deity, to me, at that point, not necessarily would be a deity if it's just reduced to dispensational states. So what makes it a deity then?
Your mom. I'm going to bed.
Nice, Shannon.
Good night, Shannon.
Oh, by the way, Shannon. Oh, never mind. I was wondering if you guys watched the roast tonight because it was brutal. Oh my god.
No, I haven't watched it yet.
So good.
Is that with Red Pill?
No. It was Tony Reed versus Not Your Witness, and it was brutal. God, they went after each other. It was great. I loved it.
No, but in regards to the question posed, if somebody invented a machine that could change the natural laws of the universe, is he God? I'm going to have to actually chime in and say no, because he had to create a machine to do it. He couldn't do it on his own.
No, I'm going to go with you on that. Yeah, I think it has to be an innate property.
If someone has the power to create a machine that changes the laws of the universe, then we could assume that necessarily they also have that same power in order to bestow it into the machine.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. We have machines all the time that we don't have an innate ability to do, right? We have computers that can calculate way greater than we can do, right? I think it matters if we have that innate ability to change the laws of the universe as opposed to a machine that can do it. Great question, by the way, Zero.
I mean, we've made welding machines, and I don't have an innate ability to weld something.
You can't shoot laser beams out of your eyes?
Not yet. That'd be so fucking cool.
Yeah, we actually had somebody in our community years ago that actually said that if God existed, he could give him the ability, if he wanted it, to shoot laser beams out of his eyes. And we're like,
oh my god, it's gonna be like, all right, Jimmy, stay here. Daddy's gotta go and laser a bitch.
But again, I'm willing. There's certain terms like supernatural and God. I'm willing to go whatever you want to define it and go down that discussion, right? I have no problem with that. Again, I'm very much into stipulative definitions sometimes for conversational purposes, But I think I'm not into sophistry that much. I think that when people go down the line of, oh well, I don't understand what the cognitive meaning of the word God is, I find that more sophistic than I do productive. All right, unless they have a really good reason of why they don't understand what the term God is, because we've had thousands of years of conversations on the topic. That's like saying I don't know what a moral law is or a moral fact is, even though we've had thousands of years of discussion on morality.
Yeah, if we've had thousands of years of discussion on the topic, has there been a consensus?
No.
In the literature, yeah. I mean, as far as when you see the words moral fact, there's a consensus in the literature what that means.
But is there a consensus about what a deity is, or what it means to be a deity? I mean, we could look at Platonism, Aristotelian theory, Stoicism, Descartesian deity. All of these have people had different ideas, and I have not yet seen any consensus among philosophers or theologians.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that. That's why I'm willing to entertain what they mean by a deity. I'm going to let them explain. Matter of fact, maybe we get MJ.
My problem is that I simply don't think that I can put a definition on something I have no exact knowledge of.
Well, you don't have to have knowledge of it. You can make. If I say, look, for the sake of this argument, a deity is something that can scripturally change the laws of the universe. That has autonomy, that has self-agency, that has a satiety. That's a big thing, right? Especially if it has a satiety. So that's how I'm going to be discussing a deity. Now, if somebody else doesn't like that description, that's fine. They can come up with their own. But MJ, how do you? I mean, if you guys don't know MJ, he's pretty good at this stuff. What would you describe as a deity? I know you're kind of slow, but that's okay. No, I'm kidding. By the way, I missed you.
Say
Jimmy.
that again, slower, please.
I'm so glad you can join us because I know what time is it for you right now.
2:03 p.m. It's October 21st.
Nice. So you're in the future.
I am in the future.
Yeah. What's the lottery numbers for today? So you might want to tell people who you are.
Well, see, now that to me is a deity, because someone who can be in the future and talk to us in the past, now that's a deity right there.
Or you can remain anonymous. I don't care. But what's your take on God?
Wait, but that means I'm talking to MJ from the past. So am I a deity as well?
Well,
no,
okay.
You're just behind the times.
Well, actually, we're going to have to put that to test. Okay, listen, sir. I have this thing called a driveway. If you can make a McLaren P1 be there in the morning and the keys on my kitchen table, that'd be great.
I will worship you if you do that.
Hells yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But MJ, how do you want to define a deity for your when you have these discussions?
How do I define deity?
Yeah.
As far as sufficient conditions, I guess it would just depend on the deity, right? Because there's different kinds of deity, right?
Well, how do you when we have this discussion of theism and they say, does God exist? How do you interpret that to mean what we mean by a deity or God? Personally, to you,
like bare theism, probably a person with the great making properties, immaterial. That's about it.
So it just has to be immaterial.
Great making properties, immateriality, and being a person.
So would you consider the Satan of the Bible to be a deity?
No, see, not the deity of bare theism, because I don't think Satan would have the great making properties.
Well, he does, though.
What, like in an inverted Nietzschean sense?
Yeah, I mean, if you read the New Testament, it says that he is the Lord over all the world and makes all evil within it. So he has great making properties.
He has the ability.
He's really good at making evil things.
He's supposedly really good at that, right?
Yeah.
There would be a craft with that. But what I would mean by good wouldn't jive with the good.
What is the
technique
good?
That Satan. Yeah. I would say it's maximizing virtue to a maximal degree. So I would root it in like some kind of virtue theory.
Yeah, very
much like an Aristotelian deity.
Yeah,
Aristotelian. Yeah,
I agree with that.
So then why is it necessary for a God to be what we would consider good or beneficial to us? Couldn't the God, creator God that
I'm having trouble
just
hearing you.
wanted to create man just to fuck with us?
That would not be a great making property.
Well, actually, when somebody asks you, do you believe in a God? How do you interpret that question, though? I mean, specifically to you. I mean, I understand the great making property and all that, but how would you answer that question?
I would ask them what they meant, whether or not I needed to narrow it down to Christian theistic God or just a bare theistic God. If it was a bare theistic God, I would just say what I already said, and then if they got more specific, I'd have to get into the Trinity and properties of the Trinity and supplement the great making analysis with that. And then
do you want to like tell your denomination?
Not really in a denomination, honestly. It's hard for me to be a member of a church for very long. I kind of get bored. It's probably not a great making property that I have.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
You ask questions too much and all that shit.
Go ahead, Ocean.
I got a grenade I want to throw in the chat.
Ooh.
Oh shit.
Nice.
Which
I love
is
Ocean's grenades. They're the
so
best grenades.
this is a grenade that was handed to me by Tyler Durden. I'm going to throw it into the chat and blow it up.
Love that movie.
So Tyler has mentioned that what if there was a sapient machine that was created by humans that had the properties to be able to change the laws of the universe? Would that be God, or would that be a God?
It would be material, though, right?
It would be a material entity.
Like I said, it would depend on the deity, but it wouldn't jive with the properties that I ascribe to the deity of bare theism.
That was my answer as well.
I would go as far as to say it would be God-like, but not the same as God.
Steve, what do you think?
I'm not going to call that a deity, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
My thing is, I'm uncomfortable putting a personal definition on it. So if you wanted to call that a deity, I would do it for the sake of an argument. But I would not. I don't think that it could safely be called a deity in its own right, just because we can't know what a deity is yet, to my knowledge.
I'd say that if it had all comparable abilities of whatever God actually theoretically existed, then it became a deity, whether or not it is the deity.
Oh yeah, I think that the only differentiating factor between this and, say, the God of Christianity is that it's a material entity.
Yeah, well, again,
wasn't the God of Christianity also a material entity?
Well, I'm being very basal.
Well, the machine would be Trinitarian, though.
That's controversial. Like, it's in some images yes, in other images no. But in
the common, aren't we using common definition?
Well, if we're using common definition that Christianity uses, then it would be non-physical, but able to influence. That would be Jesus, not God, and that gets into the Trinity conversation. I'm trying to go with the Father, and I'm not a Christian, so that's going to be a mess. But I'm trying. I'm just trying. I think that the Father is probably the simplest and easiest to understand definition of God.
Yeah. By the way,
as soon as you throw the Trinity into it, oh my God, are we talking about something that's
the Trinity is one of the most paradoxical concepts.
Like I get into conversation with Christians, trying to discuss with them whether or not the Trinity is monotheist or polytheist.
Yeah.
Right?
And by the way,
it's hilarious.
I want to clarify this. I did add some stipulations because again, we're talking about multiple other things. I have to say this though.
To the machine.
Yeah, the machine. You have no aseity. The machine doesn't have aseity, right? I mean, so it's not it's
That's
lacking.
what he's saying. Is
Aseity, yeah. That's another great making property. Aseity.
Aseity, yeah. And I don't think a machine, even if it has the ability to do that, has aseity. Even if
what's the differentiation between
aseity? There couldn't be an ontological argument for the machine.
Yeah, there you go.
It lacks some great making properties.
Good point. So I think that you could kind of narrow it down that way. But anyways, look who joined us, everybody.
Hey, for sure. What's going on?
The most woke person on the internet.
Supreme Steve.
What's up, man?
What's going on?
I'm glad you joined us. I was thinking that you still hated me, and I was kind of upset by that because I really actually enjoy talking to you for some strange reason.
I get into my little fire modes, but I never take anything personal, and I actually respect your little platform you got going on. So yeah, awesome. I'll be tuned in.
Do you guys remember the Pilot Man? He is like the woke motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. His videos are just awesome.
I have never heard of this dude in my life.
Well, he's a flat earther, so you should know him, right?
Oh fuck!
I don't agree with any of his videos, but my God, are they brilliantly articulated? I gotta give him props for that.
Is there a Godwin's law for
not a flat earther though? Not a flat earther.
You're a wave earther.
Yeah,
wave. He thinks the Earth is like a Pringles chip.
We're in a big cosmic wave right now, and I'm smoking right now.
He's woke. I'm telling you, Reds.
I see.
I have actually seen a few of his videos going around. So
I'm telling you, he's very articulate and he's very pro. His prose is great. I don't agree with that jack shit, but it's really well spoken.
Why a Pringle, not just a regular potato chip?
Hey, but yeah, to get into our conversation, as y'all was speaking about deity, I look at a deity as anything that holds a position in a form of density. So if we look at ourselves right now, we in a form of density. So anyone who can hold a position in that density can be a deity. So we got people who hold greater positions than others, so they can be perceived as deities. And that's what you see throughout all the religious Bibles and everything, people deifying idols. and that's what becomes a deity. So I think the moment we get into a conversation of trying to add a spiritual annotation to the term deity, I think that's mistake number one.
Hey, Delo, will you do me a favor? Well, I'm gonna be going out one of these days to this little store over here that's not about 20 miles away, and I'm gonna be getting some pot. When I smoke that, will you join me? Because I really want to have this conversation stone one day with you. Honestly, I really do.
When you do. When you do.
Ain't no problem.
There you go.
So you guys want to address that? Go ahead.
Yeah, it sounded like there were two conditions. On the one hand, you wanted density, but on the other hand, you wanted it to be dependent on one deifying another. Are those incompatible, or can they go together?
No, what I'm saying is, what we
speaking metaphorically,
right? We're trying to understand what a deity is, right?
Yeah, of any kind, probably.
So we have to think about how we even came to the term deity in the first place. Like what kind of state of being were humans in to call someone a deity? And is only backed and supported by someone holding a position in whatever realm of reality we in. So if it's a person who hold a position in the government or a person who hold a position in their family, they would be basically, you could call them a deity. But the moment we try to add some extra to it is the moment I think we get lost because of all the religious annotations out there and what they didn't put behind it. So I guess our arguments against it have to be in that kind of way because we know how they're coming. But in general, it's not even on their basis either. A deity is not backed by religious annotation.
Kind of empties it of any kind of mystique.
I think that the best interpretation of the concept of God is that it's metaphorical and poetic, and most of the world religions make a lot more sense when you view them that way. So,
do you think metaphors can have literal reference?
It's possible, I suppose. I mean, there's something that everyone is experiencing that they are drawing these analogies from, but maybe it's just that, like from a completely non-theistic standpoint, I'm made up of atoms that were fired in a star that, formed because a cloud of hydrogen, clumped together over billions of years. And, in a sense, just like when you light a match, the tip of the match is burning, but, the whole thing is the match, and eventually it burns up, but it's still the match and turns to ashes, but it's still the match. And in that sense, I'm that star that exploded 10 billion years ago. And, and so if you want to think of it in that term, we are, I'm not being pantheistic here. I mean, I think it's the same though. I mean, I think the pantheism is just a metaphor that we're all in this thing that we don't really quite understand. And, we all make up we are the substance of the universe. We are it.
It does depend on how you define pantheism though, because you have the problem of like Stoic pantheism.
Well,
in that instance, the pantheistic deity of the universe is defined basically by logos.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is the huge distinction, by the way.
But I see that as a little bit more. In the beginning is the word, and the word is the beginning of thought.
Well, it's more complicated than that. So the idea of logos, especially in Greek Stoicism, partially depended on the Stoic in particular who was defining it. But in a general sense, we could basically say logos is logic in a way. And the pantheistic deity is something that confines all of the universe to work by a set of logical laws and keep things in balance. Hence what their belief in regard to the natural physical phenomena, if we went back to Zeno and a few of the oldest Stoics, was that everything was in a cosmic balance because of logos. So winter was automatically going to be balanced out by summer and such.
And I think that's drawn from just experiencing the world around you and drawing your conclusions from your experience. And I still think it's all just a big, built up, I lost the word, but, it's just building on each other. It's like a lattice, and they're just constructs to help us understand the universe. None of them should be taken literally. I mean, there could be something literal behind it, but unless we have some way to experience it or transmit it or verify it, to me it seems like different religious traditions hit on certain, key tenets that they all share, whether that's interrelated or if that's just human nature, and they're just trying to explain human nature and why we're here. And, why did the guy get killed for picking up sticks on the Sabbath? Well, because we need a day off, man. And we're slaves, and we keep getting enslaved by all these other guys, and we need a day off. So we need to tell these people that our religion, our God commands that we don't work on that day. We need that one day where we can't even pick up sticks, or we got to die. I mean,
well, picking up sticks is so. I guess God's really, gets upset by that. But I want to ask Christopher a really quick question.
I think it's metaphorical. I think that it's specifically there.
I don't
for the purpose of when you get conquered by the next guy, you go, look, we can't work Saturdays, or we all have to die.
Well, the Jewish Sabbath was Saturday, wasn't it? But I want to ask Christopher on the Stoicism thing, because I understand what he's mentioning. But the problem I have is, if that's the case, if you're going to subscribe yourself to the Stoic positions or pantheism, what is the difference between just saying God or saying nature? Because they're synonymous terms.
No difference.
Well, because the Greeks define nature mostly by matter instead of by anything that governs nature. They differentiate it because they didn't think that nature and matter in and of itself was directly a part of deity.
But they're adding something to the nature. They're adding a dualism type approach. They're adding something.
It is dualism. It is a completely dualistic view. That's not the view of all Greeks. There are also Greek pantheists who just thought that everything was God.
Yes.
And then there's Spinozan pantheism, that's what Einstein more attributed himself to.
God of the philosophers. Yeah.
That's more akin to both. Spinozan pantheism is God is basically everything, matter and matter, which Spinoza has a whole thing about how he defines a substance in particular, and then thought. It is and substance is basically a generation of thought, in a way. It's much more Berkeleyan in form.
So wait a minute, repeat that. Substance is generative thought.
It's basically a culmination of thought in a way. It basically his idea was that substance could be understood basically to be thoughts, thinking things, in a way.
Well, that's what a substance dualist would probably say, because they even put the mind as something that exists independently of the physical substrate.
Right, and then you can take it down one step further, where there are monists who only think that there's the mind, where you're getting down to Berkeley and his entire world generated by ideas and stuff like that.
Can I ask about quick, Chris? I mean, you sound like you actually have some training in this particular area, or is this something you just have an interest in?
Mostly just an interest in. I did study for a while. Was studying to get a minor in philosophy.
Okay.
But I didn't end up going through with it. I instead finished a minor in German.
No, I'm just curious because you're at a level that I'm not used to having a conversation with. Which
I just read a lot. Greek philosophy in particular is one of my favorites, and I tend to actually find myself along the line of Berkeleyan physics and Berkeleyan idea, because you can't really argue with Berkeley. Really,
who's your favorite pre-Socratic?
Favorite pre-Socratic, probably Thales.
Really, I thought you would like Heraclitus.
I do like Heraclitus a bit.
Everybody likes Heraclitus. Come on.
Who doesn't? If you don't like Heraclitus, you haven't read him.
And do you like Anaximander?
Anaximander is really interesting. I honestly, pre-Socratics in general, I just love reading, particularly because I love all their different ideas of the physical universe, and all of them have very varying ideas on it. But I mean, one of my favorite pre-Socratics is Zeno. Who's also one of the founders of eventual Stoicism. It's interesting.
I was just saying, people to this day still don't think we've resolved Zeno's paradox, and I'm like, then you haven't had calculus.
Is that the arrow and the tree bullshit? must hit halfway, then halfway up to halfway, and so on.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
I think Aristotle answered him pretty good.
I always put it actually in terms of two moving objects relatively. So you have a man and a tortoise that are chasing you or running. The man is behind the tortoise and chasing him. But in order to reach the tortoise, first he has to get halfway. But by the time he's reached halfway, the tortoise has already moved here. And then it just keeps going and going and going, and the man can never reach or pass the tortoise.
By the way, Arato is your muse that said, Steve, I used to hate philosophy until I found your channel. That's the greatest compliment I can get.
Yay!
It's like somebody saying to Reds, I used to believe in flat Earth, and then I saw your channel, and I no longer believe flat Earth. That's the greatest compliment anybody can give to Reds, and that he's a fuck.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, about fucking time. Yeah, welcome to the normal side of things.
You need to make a list of all the ex-flat Earthers you've. Oh wait, there have been any.
There's
okay. Have you? I mean, how many people have you let out of flat Earth?
I know of 3 off the top of my head.
Not that bad, I guess.
I mean, I know of 3. One of them actually converted when his exact quote was, after I took Jeranism's bullshit and like shoved it up his ass sideways. So he took my verbiage exactly, and it was great. Greatest compliment I ever had ever. It was like, yeah, ever since that debate you had with Jeranism, I realized he was a con man and I shouldn't believe his shit.
And that's a hell of a compliment. And I was in the hangout with Jamal Williams, so I remember when we actually kind of tag team him and he gave it up.
Yep, he gave it up too. So he became a geocentrist, which is just as wrong, but better. At least he got the shape right.
Marginally.
Marginally.
We're talking about degrees of stupid, so yeah.
Yeah.
What's the main argument against that with Robert Sangenis?
Well, by the way, did you ever watch my conversation with Robert Sangenis when I've actually got him to admit that using Galilean transformations you can make anywhere the center of the Earth?
I did not hear
the
universe.
Universe. And so it's kind of funny. Yeah, well, because I've talked to, we had that discussion with Sangenis a couple times, and we had it with actually the other guy as well. What's his name? God damn it, Rick Delano. But my conversation with Rick Delano, I was actually with Richard Carrier when we were, Richard and I were just like tag teaming him, which was great. But when it came to Robert Sangenis, I'd asked him a very specific question in our discussion, and I said, do you agree that you can use these Galilean transformations, which are basically non-relativistic type of transforms in matrix theory, to show that I can make anywhere in the universe the center? And he said yes. And I'm like, so what distinguishes the Earth? And his answer was God. And I'm like, now you are no longer in the realm of science. Thank you very much for pointing that out to people.
That's all he said?
Yeah, basically. I mean, he basically was saying because of the Catholic Church and the religion and God, that's the reason why we have a special place in the universe, just obliterating the Copernicus principle, which I hold to. But his whole movie, The Principle, is about violations of the Copernicus principle, based on very flawed understanding of science. But he at least admitted, and I give him props to that, he's actually a cool guy to talk to, but he at least admitted that, you know what, if I want to make you the center of the universe, I could by using math. It's no different than anything else. He just thinks that this Earth has a special place because of his religious beliefs, not because of a scientific belief, not because of any science pointing to that.
And you know what, if flat earthers were to just go down that line of argument, then I would actually respect that more, because at that point, I now know that it's fucking pointless. Thank you for allowing me to not waste any of my fucking time.
Yeah, well, yeah. If a flat earther says, "Look, I believe the Earth is flat because the Bible says so," there's no amount of real anything you're going to present to him mathematically or physics is probably going to change his mind. At that point, you're just dealing with somebody who's an ideologue.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Bezos can launch his sorry ass into a suborbital launch, get his ass above the Karman line and see the curvature of the Earth, and he'll still deny it. And anyone that can actually say that, yes, is dumb, but at least they're dumb in an honest way. It's not really better, but it's better for me. I don't know.
I get you. But they can always say, look,
it's in that weird gray area.
All they have to do is this. Oh, I'm above the Karman line, but you know what? This is Satan fucking with my mind.
Yeah, say some stupid bullshit like that. That's fine. Getting a flat earther to admit that they are wrong and that they don't know anything and that the world isn't as scary as they're making it out to be because evil NASA's out to get them and the nameless, faceless they is out to get them is a lot like removing the sting from Olympus shit with an empty can of Febreze.
Yeah. Can I give you a follow-up question with what you told me about Sangenis, or were you about to say?
Yeah, go ahead. No, go.
With the Galilean transformations, what exactly is Sangenis saying? Is he saying that he uses Tycho Brahe's model, right?
Yes.
And then he, and basically, if you were to geometrically represent whatever the ramifications of that model is, there's an actual, I guess, point that's equidistant from everything around it. In that sense, it's the center of the universe, and then you can use these Galilean transformations to just shift the dot over and make the equidistant circumference just kind of shift with the dot.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Matter of fact, planetariums do that all the time because it's easier to produce the projections.
Okay.
And his reasoning is that we have a special place in the universe. Where he falls short, because at that point, again, you're not dealing with science, but where he falls short is his misunderstanding with what's called the axis of evil. There's certain anesotropies in the cosmic background radiation that is because of thermal effects, and that we understand what's going on. Now, for some reason, he thinks it's directly pointing to Earth and the solar system, because on initial data it was very coarse, and that's kind of what it indicated. But after refinement, after the Planck data and the WIMP data, we actually have seen that it's actually 12 degrees off the elliptical plane, which is basically me pointing somewhere in the direction of New York for Matt, and then him saying, "Oh, look, Steve's pointing at the Eiffel Tower, or excuse me, the Empire State Building," right? No, I'm not pointing at the Empire State Building. I'm pointing in the general direction of New York.
Gotcha.
But we're 12 degrees off, and so it's just the way the alignment works, but it's so not what he thinks it is. And so he's saying, well, look, the universe is pointing directly to us. Well, no, it's not. No more than I'm pointing directly to the Empire State Building.
Right. That's interesting. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. And he's
wondering about what to say to that.
I think the direction is not the same as a direct point.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I like how you put it as equidistant, right? Because when you're saying something's the center, you're saying that you're equidistant from every other point in the universe, and you could do that with any point in the universe because there is no hard edge to it. And by the way, Carrie,
that's what I was going to say, is because we have not yet managed to find any hard edge or boundary to the universe. Right. You can really make the argument that we're the center.
Is there an agreed upon typology for the universe at all? Isn't that speculative?
No. Matter of fact, the way we have the flat geometry to about 6 sigma, that the local geometry is flat.
6 sigma. Awesome.
Yeah, there is general consensus, like Steve said. There are a few competing ideas, but they don't have any mainstream acceptance. There's the
I heard Taurus.
There's a spherical model of the universe. There is a 3D cube model, but to my knowledge, neither of those have any widespread acceptance.
Well, the cube model is not. I wouldn't say the cube model deals with cosmology. You're talking about. I think you're talking about the infinite. What's called the growing cube for time. I forget the actual name for it, but it's
four-dimensionalism. Or?
No, it's a model for time based
growing
on
block. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it is. Thank you.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. I was confused.
Yeah, that's a little bit different. The growing block model is not the same for cosmology. That has to do with more topology and time. By the way, Carrie, look who's in the live chat that you want to have a conversation with him? I'll do it. I will do it.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Who?
Oh, Greg, no, you're gonna hate this.
I already hate you. You're gonna make me hate you even more.
Do we have any more questions for an agnostic before we dump into that dumpster fire?
Well, I have to go for a few minutes. I'm going to turn it over to you, Ocean, because we have
don't do that.
We have like 110 people watching, so they're going to find this interesting. But yes, I will invite Mr. Intelligent and Design in, even though
fuck my life.
I know.
Hey, hey,
what could go wrong?
If you want me to fuck you.
So. Let me see here. How many do we have in it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
We're full.
You're literally going to invite Mr. Eggs and tissue paper.
Well, if he wants the link, I don't know if he does.
It's eggs and
Steve, I'll drop out if he wants to come in. You want me to drop out?
He doesn't. I'll speak on his behalf.
Well, MJ, no, you're one of the smarter ones in the room. So, no, I'm kidding. We're all
smart. I'm just gonna say I'm not agnostic about this guy.
I have so much respect for MJ. His knowledge level is just freaking ridiculously high. I hate him.
Stop complimenting me.
God, I hate you. No, just shut up. Just hate him.
There's a good.
Hear him compliment me. It's a mess.
No, hey, Steve, is my volume okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, buddy.
Yes, that's fine to me.
No, I go to MJ for my philosophical things because when I ask him questions, he actually gives me good answers, and I know he knows this topic, and so I don't feel like I'm like an idiot going, okay, I don't get this. Please help me, Because
then go to Chris for history and philosophy.
I did have one question for an agnostic,
sure.
Especially for Steve. It seems to me that you're basing your position on two separate propositions. One, a God exists, and that's or does a God exist? And that's we use to spend judgment. But do you believe a God exists? And you answer no. And the second proposition would be, do you believe no God exists? And your answer is still no. But you're separating the two propositions and basing your position based on two separate propositions.
I love the way you word that, but let me explain to you why that's not correct. By the way, I'm so glad.
Yeah, I caught what he did there too.
Yeah,
so
I know. I did too, right? Okay, so let me explain. By the way, like again, I really think that that's a brilliant observation, but it's not the case, and here's why. You're dealing with the same proposition, not two, because the proposition is that only at least one God exists. If you believe that proposition, then that's one thing. If you believe the opposite of that proposition, the negation, that's another, right? So we're going to call the position of belief the proposition's true, theism. We're going to call the belief that the proposition is false, atheism. And then the agnostic says, well, I don't hold a belief either way to that same proposition. So it's not two different propositions. It's one proposition, but you don't hold a belief that is true. You don't hold a belief that is false, which is perfectly fine. It's like having the gumball analogy, right? If I say, Mark, I have a gumball machine in front of me. Just because I don't hold a position that they're even or odd because I don't have any idea one way or another, right? I'm not justified to say that they're even though ontologically they're contradictories. That if you're even, you can't be odd, and vice versa. So they're in that regard ontologically, yes, God exists or God does not exist. It is even or it's odd. But just because ontologically that is this case, existentially doesn't mean that I have to have a belief either way. I can hold that I don't believe that they're even, and I don't believe that they're odd. I'm agnostic on the proposition of them being even. But at the same time, I guess my entailment, I'm also agnostic on the proposition that they're odd, right? So yes, in a way, I am agnostic to both propositions, but I think that's more of an entailment thing. And that's one of my arguments when I say that a weak atheist, by logical necessity, I think it's the same as agnosticism or non-theism. They're all the same thing.
All right. I just wanted to clear that up in my head.
But I'm glad you noted that, though. A lot of people don't note that they think it is two different propositions. But if you really think about it, it's not, because the belief itself is not. Beliefs are not a dichotomy, right? Yes, it's a dichotomy whether God exists or not, if you want to go that route. But the belief about it, well, no, I can have a belief that God exists. I can have a belief that God does not exist. I can have a belief that I don't care one way or another. I can have the belief that the whole proposition is nonsensical or not truth apt. I can have a lot of different beliefs. So beliefs are not a dichotomy as people think that they are.
No.
And belief also admits a degree. So you can believe something with a high degree of confidence or a low level of confidence.
Absolutely. And confidence is a different aspect of belief, right? How confident are you in your belief is not the same as do you hold the belief or not, right?
Because earlier Steve made the, because I was watching before I entered, but the deck of cards analogy, where if you're missing one red card, if you had to make a bet which color the next drawn card would be, you would have a belief, but it would just be a touch toward the black side.
But is that enough to justify a belief?
Well, I think it is, because it's
really.
A touch.
I don't think so. I disagree. Just because I don't think it's enough justification to say I believe this to be the case, because I don't hold that belief. I'm like, it's more maybe slightly more likely. That's not a belief.
Well, sure it is. If you think something is more likely, then you think that is probably the case.
No, not at all. Just because I think it might be marginally more likely that the gumballs may be even, doesn't to me justify holding a belief that they're even.
Wait a second, Steve.
A good instance that I like using in that case is that let's say that I put a cat outside, and I haven't seen it in several. I didn't see it in several hours. Just go Schrodinger. Could be dead, could be alive. But me figuring that it's more likely that it could be alive has no bearing on whether or not what I think the actual case is going to be.
Sure. But by the way, I heard this joke today about a police officer pulls over Schrodinger and opens up his trunk and says, "Hey, you have a dead cat in here." And Schrodinger goes, "Well, he is now."
I kind of wanted to actually bring up the Schrodinger's cat a little bit earlier, because one thing that I've constantly had to do, especially like you were talking about earlier, is that belief's not a dichotomy. But whenever, almost half the time when I'm debating with theists, is that they try to turn it into a dichotomy. Especially in regards to belief in a deity, they try to turn it into either you believe or you don't. They don't.
Well, that is a dichotomy, and that's
right.
Fine with that.
Well,
but if you don't believe, that doesn't necessarily you accept the negation.
You can suspend belief.
You can suspend judgment, right?
Yeah. Well, then what they try to do is twist the belief into into the probability. You think it's likely that God doesn't exist, or not likely, or whatever.
But marginally likely doesn't mean that you have to. If you're over that 0.5%, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to hold to a particular position. I think there's a penumbra there that has some variability.
Yeah. Well, what
you
I
can
want,
suspend
what I
judgment
like
about whether or not that likelihood will
presenting like this.
Absolutely.
What I also like presenting is that a state, when it comes to belief, is that a state of a middle ground is also available. Actually, that you don't hold either a belief or a non-belief.
Well, okay. Here's the thing on that, real quick. And I can't be too loud, but I think the classical, and I hope maybe NJ will weigh on this. I think classical logic, for that very reason, is inappropriate. The tool to really talk about beliefs, because you're limited by I believe or I don't believe. It's a dichotomy. But in other types of logic, like multivariable logic, multivariable logic or fuzzy logic, you have a lot more nuance, right? And I think that because beliefs are gradient, maybe classical logic isn't really the best way to talk about it. You need dosastic logic. You need
I agree,
logic.
but that's why I like putting it in terms of Schrodinger's cat as well. There's a belief, there's a non-belief. There's also the point where you don't consider either a belief or non-belief valid.
Well, in classical, you're kind of stuck with one or the other. But MJ, does that make sense to you? Would you agree that maybe we should?
Classical logic is way incomplete.
Okay.
I mean,
good.
Yeah.
By the way, will you look at can you see the group chat?
Yeah, I am actually.
By the way, I showed this to Alex a couple days ago, Malpass, and he seems to think that the conclusion follows. He thinks non-theism is the same thing as well. So can you look at that and tell me if you think that's a valid argument?
Yeah, I'm going to analyze it right now.
Okay. Because like I said, I know Alex, like he agrees that non-theism is basically the same thing. They're all logically the same position, just different names. And I happen to agree with him. And this was the informal proof that I came up with to kind of show that a lack of belief atheist is logically the same as an agnostic. However, they are epistemically different, right? I mean, a Christian and a Muslim are both theist, right? So they're logically atheist, but there are epistemic differences between the two, right? This is the same thing. Even though lack of belief atheist and Gnostic are logically the same, just like a Christian and Muslim are logically a theist, there are huge differences between them, epistemically speaking.
Right. Right. Like, I mean,
well, what the fuck
you can do the same you can do the same characterization between.
Yeah, you never push eggs through a tissue paper.
I'm working on it. I can't be as smart as Mr. Intelligent Design. I'm working on it. I don't have 6 books out like he does.
Why are you doing this tonight?
I'm trying to get him in here. He hasn't messaged me yet.
Yeah, but why are you trying to get him in here?
Reds, it's Steve and it's Mr. Intelligent Design.
Yeah, what can go wrong?
Like it's too. They're just attracted to one another. They can't resist.
You know what? You know I'm the one that brought Edgar in from the outside. He was just like a nobody in Japan, and I said, "Fuck this guy! I really got to have a conversation with him."
Steve, I thought I was your
It's
only
your
one.
fault.
You don't need Edgar. You have me. Come on.
You don't cuddle like he does.
I'm learning. Okay.
You don't have an experience.
Here, hey, I can give you lessons. I'm bi, so I can do it for both.
You want to want Reds?
Listen. It depends on how much you charge per hour. Okay.
Free.
Literally,
it's free depending on how cute you are.
Christopher, when Red's going on a date, he literally has to have a bag on his head and her head in case his breaks. That's for sure.
My face is actually illegal in 17 U.S. states.
See, now I'm just intrigued.
You have piqued my interest, sir.
Oh my god.
So I'm trying to get Carrie's been dying to have a conversation with Mr. ID. So I want for Carrie to have a talk with him, but he's not. Mr. ID doesn't know how to message me, I guess.
I'm speechless with that guy.
Keep having that problem.
He's an exceptionally
Honestly, I think that we should all just drop everything and convert to Mr. Intelligent Design's system of belief right now. Because like tissue paper and eggs.
Oh, we should all become
I can't object.
adherents of Berkeley in physics. Come on.
But I mean, are you familiar with his positions? I mean, like for example, his probability. According to Mr. Intelligent Design, probability doesn't exist between a range of 0 and 1 like every other normal person on the planet. He thinks probability can go to 3. 1.4 to 3 is his range. Well, that's the super range. So he has normal probability, then he has this super probability based upon the fact that you can have supernaturalism that causes the probability to be 3. But the problem is with that is you're outside the sample size. You're outside your statistical space, right? You have more than the events in your system. I don't know what a probability of 3 would even entail. It's just nonsensical.
Yeah, I don't know how he. To me, it just seems like an excuse just to dismiss classical probability. It doesn't seem to me to be a tenable position.
Well, you're not woke enough for Mr. ID, though. That's why you don't grasp the mastery. That
Get woke, son.
I'm also a pretty shit person at anything to do with statistics and mathematical probability. So I'm also not anyone qualified to talk on it. So
yeah, he accepts a natural probability, which we're between 0 and 1, but he thinks for some reason there's a higher range of probability based upon supernatural causation. Oh, Carrie, look who I told you I would do this for you.
You know what impressed me the most is when I remember when he was first on, when his camera was on, he was standing in front of a computer monitor that had like some Mr. ID logo on it, and I'm expecting that he's going to have some presentation and point to things, and that logo just stayed on there, and he started egg on the paper towel or whatever.
You're saying he's the logos.
What was the point of the whole?
Edgar is the logos. Oh God, I'm not sober. I'm too sober for this. I'm turning this over for a few minutes. Good God bless you. I'm sorry, people, but we have 108 people watching.
Did you create this situation and then put it in my head?
Don't leave us.
Horrible man.
You just bring in this guy, and now you. No,
right.
Christopher, you're in for a treat.
I thought that I was throwing in a grenade and then fucking off, and now what Steve is literally doing, he's throwing in a grenade and fucking right off.
I have taken your grenade and raised it.
He didn't throw in a grenade. Steve just decided to detonate a fucking nuke.
Let's go ahead and detonate this motherfucker. Edgar, my friend, are you there, sir?
Oh fuck me. Okay.
We're pulling the pin.
Is that an offer?
It depends on how this goes.
Yeah, not the first time Red's been fucked.
Reds might need it after this, so.
Edgar, are you there?
Edgar, my buddy, my pal, we got to make sure that you're in the house. So let's unmute and say hello, please, sir.
Edgar.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm here in Japan. Okay.
What's going on, buddy? So we got a guy here. His name is Kerry. He wants to have a conversation with you. Wants to ask you a couple of questions, and I'm sure that this will be entertaining for us all. So, Kerry, what's on your mind, buddy? What do you want to talk to Mr. ID about?
You know, Steve's filling you with these ideas. I think
that Steve's filling you with ideas that are completely accurate. Have you never met Mr. Intelligent Design, sir?
No, I've not.
Okay, well let's introduce you to Mr. Intelligent Design.
Great.
Mr. Intelligent
Hi,
Design,
Edgar.
can you give like a brief explanation of your theory of intelligence?
Okay, so it's as simple as this. The old intelligent design was supported by Michael Behe, Stephen Meyer, and the scientists of the Discovery Institute. They were using irreducible complexity as the main explanation. The new intelligent design that I have founded was based on the discovery of the real and universal topic of intelligence, based on intelligence. By knowing intelligence and non-intelligence, I could easily categorize, differentiate all X in the entire existence, whether it is particle, cell, angel, computer, mountains, river, whatever. So that's the big difference.
I have no clue what you just said.
Carrie, Mr. Intelligent Design, I think that you have just knocked Carrie out. That Carrie has just no idea how to respond. Obviously, you've won the debate.
You just said mountains, cells, and angels?
And by the way,
I'm pretty sure Carrie is like on the verge of converting.
I want to make sure. I want to make sure I put this out.
No, I will repeat. I will repeat. I will repeat. Okay, if somebody will ask you, is a mountain is intelligently designed or not, or is a computer or a stone or an angel or or whatever you would like to categorize between intelligence to non-intelligence, or sometimes I use the two words intentional to non-intentional, you can easily do that by using the new intelligent design.
I want to make this very clear real quick. Edgar is not a Poe. Edgar, this is not a character.
No, he's legit.
He's totally legit. So trust me on this.
Edgar has legit. Edgar. He's got several books published on Amazon.
6 books on Amazon. Yeah.
And you know, like he's very good at explaining himself. So far, Terry,
good luck.
My opinion, my impression of you so far is that you have no objections to what Mr. ID has to say.
No, I don't even know what he's saying. And
we have a speechless fucking atheist in the room. What is going on? Mr. Intelligent Design wins yet again. What is going on?
I can't win.
No, but all right, go ahead. You can ask some clarifying questions, Gary.
Look, I got my drugs here. That's all I need. I'm good.
Again, I will clarify again. Maybe let's go to a specific example. Okay, let's go to biology.
Sure.
Let's go to biology. Okay. Let us use cell. C-E-L-L. C-E-L-L. Okay, I write here in the main chat. C-E-L-L. Before the new intelligent design, when a scientist or an ordinary person was asked this kind of question, is cell intelligent design or not? Intelligently designed or not? Before the new intelligent design, this question cannot be answered. But after I discovered intelligence, that question could easily be answered. Okay? So before the new intelligent design, nobody in the entire scientific consensus could answer that question if cell is intelligently designed or intentionally designed. Now I can answer that. It's so easy, it's so simple.
Okay.
Question.
Well, hold on. Carrie, do you have any clarifying questions?
What is your new intelligent design?
Real quick, I want to make sure that Carrie's got first crack at this. Is the reason why we invited him in the first place. So, Carrie, you know, I'm trying to get with you, man. I know that this is some next level.
Carrie, don't listen to Ocean. You don't need to take this shit. You really don't.
What do you have any clarifying questions? Do you understand what he's going, or
just because he has the whip does not mean you have to let him use it on you.
Okay, I'm in the middle of a move. I have boxes behind me. I'm into this. I wanted to be in this hangout to talk about the whole atheist, agnostic mumbo jumbo, and I get dumped, or Mr. ID gets dumped in. I don't even know what to say.
Hey, Carrie, it's okay. It's okay. The whip stings a little bit at first.
By the way, I only do this to people I like, Carrie. So
I just am surprised that Mr. ID comes in. This guy's got a winning streak like no other. I have never seen anybody, like any atheist, actually get on his level.
Okay.
And I'm just absolutely impressed with this man.
And by the way, I will agree with Shannon. If I'm ever become an atheist, it's going to be because I'm listening to Mr. ID. Okay.
I asked this question of Mr. ID a few months ago, however long ago ever it was. ID question.
Okay.
A design where I'm breathing can be interrupted by me taking in food. You know, that whole thing about choking. How is that an intelligent design? Because I can find a easy solution for that, which apparently God was unable to do. How is my ability to choke to death intelligently designed?
It's a good question.
Okay, choke to death. Intelligence is always used for existence and for life. So when you are using choke to death as one example, choke to death is non-intelligence. It is always non-intelligence. That phenomena.
So my throat was not intelligently designed.
No, I never said that. What I said, that the phenomena, the event of choking to death is non-intelligence, because intelligence is always used for existence and for life.
If it's good, then it was designed. If it's bad, it was not designed.
So is the act of choking not intelligently designed?
That was a bad idea.
No. Choking to death because you are going to die. Death is not part of intelligence.
Yeah, don't do that.
I don't. I think 99.9% of people aren't actively striving to choke themselves to death when they go to KFC. Okay.
Why is there death in the world?
KFC's amazing.
So hold on, Mr. Intelligent Design. Why is there death in the world then?
One more, please. One more, please. I didn't get it.
Why is there death in the world if it is not intelligent?
Good question. Good question. Okay. I always claim that to show that that reality exists intelligence must have always an opposite, or I call it a symmetrical phenomena.
So
asymmetrical phenomena. Asymmetrical. I write AC.
Non-symmetrical.
Non-symmetrical phenomena. So once we found, for example, death and life, happiness and loneliness, pain and no pain. If there is no intelligence that is ruling the whole entire reality, there will be no pain, there will be no happiness. There is only one phenomena. So the reason why we have two phenomena, because the whole existence is being ruled by intelligence.
I can't help but notice that you're not quite answering the questions that we're asking of you.
No, I think I answered you. I think I answered your question.
No, you said something is not intelligence, but I asked you how something is intelligently designed because.
Oh no, I think he's answering a question I asked him, Reds.
Yeah, he's answering a question about death.
About death.
And
why is there death in the world?
I guess he answered that. It's in.
Well, yeah, it's a segue to death because it came from choking to death. But this, I mean, did I actually answer my question? Because something is not intelligently designed. I just want to know what the hell that one thing is.
He said that thing that is the reverse, because that's why I asked the question about death. Is that thing that is on the reverse, that is not intelligently designed, is part of that symmetrical relationship between intelligence and the universe.
Okay, so all right, how about another example? Okay, let's try this. There are a few mental disorders that make people want to saw off their own limbs. How is their minds intelligently designed if it actually leads to self-mutilation like that?
Well, you are using the minds. If I will categorize that based on science, I will be very specific. I will categorize that mind, the mentally ill mind. So, by definition of intelligence, a mentally ill mind is not using intelligence, because the faculty of using intelligence for its existence is not working. So, intelligence is always working only to those minds that are working properly.
So let me ask you a point blank question. Does God make defective minds or not?
No.
Okay, then why are there defective minds in the world?
Asymmetry, probably, because his asymmetrical view requires a dualist point. So if there is a working mind, there has to be a non-working mind.
Christopher, you're right. You're right. You're right. Because to show intelligence that exists in the reality, the intelligent agent must always produce two phenomena.
Okay.
Okay. Christopher, you're right. You're getting right. You're getting right. Thank you.
You're getting right.
Okay, so I think I understand Mr. ID's point. He's a very specialized dualist of a sort. And I guess this would have to be an asymmetrical natural dualist of intelligence. Where there is intelligence, there also must be a lack of intelligence. Where there is a defective mind, there must be a working mind. Where there is life, there must be death. All part of this asymmetrical dualist approach.
Is Christopher actually interpreting this guy?
Yeah, it seems like he understands what's going on.
He said it right. He said it right.
Okay, so when I asked so Christopher, maybe you can help me out here. So when I asked, does God make defective minds? He said no. So does God make the other side of that coin, or is it just simply a manifestation because fuck all?
So I think what the answer would have to be is that God creates minds. Whether or not they're intelligent or unintelligent has to do with, I guess, a starting point. So if a mind exists, it has the capacity of a dualist state of being both working and non-working.
So just to make sure I understand this, the fact that the mind is there is all that's required. Whether it's working or not is beside the point.
Correct, because if the mind's there, the mind then must the mind, since this is a dualist approach, if the mind is there, it must have either the state of working or non-working. It has to actually have both, because it's a dualist approach, and then thus it doesn't make a difference if God made it or not, or if God makes a broken mind or working mind. A mind by necessity has to have dual qualities of both.
All right, so it has dual qualities of both. All right, now if I were to point out flaws in the human body, for example, like, I don't know, let's just name one, constipation. If we're dealing with that, that would actually be an example of something that fits with whatever the fuck ID is actually saying. Like, you can name like all the bad shit that actually exists in the world, but that would actually fit into what ID is saying, right?
Yes, it would.
All right, so basically he's found a one-size-fits-all solution for every single problem.
Yeah, he's actually found a dualist solution for the problem of evil, and actually in a way, because
because it covers everything.
Right, because God doesn't create evil. Evil has to be a natural byproduct of the asymmetry.
So basically, God can make all good things, but is completely powerless to stop evil and bad shit from happening. Like, for example, putting testicles on the outside of the body so that they can be kicked more easily.
In that regard, if God's able to stop it, I don't know. Mr. ID, what is can God stop evil?
Well, okay. The question, yes, if God will going to if God will going to make a reality that is only for natural, in other words, for symmetry, good only good. For example, in heaven, after the earth is finished, all Christians will be going to heaven, and heaven has no suffering, has no death, has no cry, has no tears. Then heaven is a natural place only. There's no pain. So that's why the earth is a place where intelligence exists. But in heaven, the place where natural phenomena exist. Okay.
Do you believe do you think there's a hell?
Yes.
Okay, so in your reckoning, basically what we have here is actually layers of different phases of existence. So heaven is a symmetrical natural world where there's all good. hell
Correct.
is symmetrical in that there's all bad.
Correct.
Earth has both.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I understand that.
Perfect.
My hat is off to you, Christopher.
Wow.
I'm also impressed because I've gone down this road a little bit with him before, and this is kind of when I started kind of falling in love with him. But Christopher, you've done quite well, sir.
It's interesting because Mr. ID's philosophy is very Greek. It's very Greek. I actually find it very interesting, and actually rather commendable because it's really well thought out. In that regard,
I wouldn't go that far. Just just personally, I wouldn't go that far.
Well,
the confusing part is when he gets into how he demonstrates it.
Right.
Because that's usually what he starts with. Is
right from a theoretical perspective, though, his universe makes sense.
Well, yeah, there's an internal consistency to him. That's why I'm so excited about him.
It is internally consistent, but it kind of boils down, at least to me, it sounds like nothing but a baseless assertion. Oh, well, what about this problem? Oh, that's actually how you know about it. This is an indicator of this one thing. Oh, well, how do you know that to be the case? I don't know, because it makes sense. Okay, well, you can make a lot of shit make sense. That doesn't mean it's actually the case.
I mean, yes, fair, but I mean, if we're going to get down to it, anything that we try to claim about reality for the most part is just assertion, because if we could know anything, we'd solve hard solipsism by now.
Well, obviously, which is why I'm not making that stretch, but he is.
Right. Now here's one. Mr. ID, do you think that God is asymmetrical?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because he can be both. He can use both intelligence or non-intelligence. It depends on a reality.
How do you use non-intelligence?
Can God use both good and bad? Good and evil?
Only on Earth. Only on Earth.
Okay.
When dealing with human being, because when dealing with human being, I believe based on the way based on intelligence, based on the definition of intelligence, God always chooses good and evil to show that he is ruling the whole reality for human being as intelligence. That's why we understand reality based on our human mind, because our human mind also can reach to a limit of intelligence. But of course, sometimes we use non-intelligence.
Okay. That's actually a really interesting theology. So he can use both good and evil on Earth, but in heaven he only uses good, right?
Correct.
And so in hell he only uses bad.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So his power limit is also based on the universe which within he acts. So his goodness is tied to or badness is tied to whatever universe he's in, and if he's on Earth, because it's a asymmetrical world, he can use both.
Correct. Yeah, you get it right. You got it right.
So let's turn this back to Kerry real quick. Kerry, buddy, what do you think so far?
Man, I'm just watching the numbers go up. We're up to 133 viewers. Mr. ID's solid gold.
That's what I'm telling you. This guy he's internally consistent, and he's very eloquent. I thoroughly appreciate.
He's an author. He's a prolific author.
Indeed. He's got 6 books on Amazon, guys. Go check it out.
I mean, to be honest, I have never bought a creation or an intelligent design book from any from the authors themselves, but I'm actually kind of tempted because I'm very curious about his books Mr. ID's amazing. Cosmology. I'm actually quite intrigued by it.
Christopher, if you buy his book, the first dollar, your dollar will be framed on his wall. You know.
Ocean. Now,
what's up, sir?
Now, you said that he's very how you said you used the word interesting, right?
Oh, I think he's great.
Okay, so great. Okay, now great in what sense? Can you please explain
so if you want like my serious perspective on it, I think that he's
context is helpful.
My opinion is very, very similar to Christopher's. That he has that there's an interesting internal consistency to him. I think that the place where he gets bumpy though, and is because he tries to demonstrate this with experiments rather than simply approach it from a positing logical perspective and actually like walking people through where he gets to. So like usually people don't get to the point with him of what Christopher has gotten. In fact, I've had a couple of discussions with him, but I haven't gotten to the point where Christopher's gotten. So I've gotten more impressed with Edgar through this conversation. So
look,
but
Christopher has a handicap, and me as the hair, obviously.
Yeah, great, but cool. Anyway, like I started to see is like, oh, okay, well, he's got something that's going on here. The problem is that usually he gets into wheel spinning on these experiments that he usually presents involving eggs and tissue paper and putting a plant in a closet. So and that's where a lot of the confusion rests, because it does the connect between the experiments and what he's saying. I don't think it's there, but a lot of what he's expressing is fun to talk about, but a lot of times we get stuck on the experiments.
Now, when you say fun,
when I say fun, like this is like legitimately enjoyable for me, because I mean,
right?
I sit. Okay, you want to see what I do for fun?
If you're going to show me spiked dildos, I don't want to see. Oh, okay.
Those are all Bible commentaries and Bibles and translations and stuff.
If you want to know what I do for fun, just look
you
at the
and I are
car
very
that's on
similar,
your screen.
Christopher.
All right, so is it? Do you all share my opinion that he kind of has some internal consistency? I'll go ahead and grant him that, but he kind of shoehorned it into place. It's kind of like a one size fits all. I cannot be wrong because
I initially had that opinion until Christopher just talked to him, and now I think he might be more consistent than I thought he was.
Yeah, I don't think it's a shoehorn, because he's. I mean, yes, it is definitely one size fits all, but it is not like, it's not like a Ken Ham attempt at just dismissing the contentions. It very much is is thought through logically. He's made it internally consistent. I mean, I don't think it's like the shoehorn that or dismissal that Ken Ham would do. Like when I asked him about the problem of evil, it's very much consistent with the natural philosophy that Mr. ID's already put forth. Is that it's completely consistent with that.
Well,
whereas
I would say he's not.
So there might be a bumpiness if we start asking ID like Christian specific questions.
Well, the reason why I see a little bit of bumpiness in there is that it's actually, dare I say, designed to self-correct itself. So basically, there is no objection that you can actually bring up that will get rid of that baseline, because it's shoehorned in, at least in my opinion.
I mean, sure there is. I mean, Occam's razor. Because it requires far more assumptions than, say, Berkeleyan idea. So, Mr. ID, do you think that there is a physical world?
Occam's razor is not an objection, though. Occam's razor it's an appeal to simplicity, but simplicity doesn't necessarily mean true. And Occam's razor isn't like, I wouldn't say that you could say that Occam's razor is an objection to him. You might say he's taking some unnecessary steps.
I could definitely say it's an objection. It's an objection. So,
as to why we should accept it.
Do you think that there's a material universe?
I did not hear. I did not hear the question. Can you repeat again, please?
Oh, okay. Mr. ID, do you think there's a material universe?
Material universe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so he's also, and you believe that there is a spiritual as well, a spiritual side as well.
Yeah, the intelligence predicts it.
Okay, so
intelligence predicts it. Okay.
Okay, so it is a. So you are.
That's
you are also a dualist in that sense. So
No,
where
the objection is where is there what he just said. I think, rather than trying to say that he's holding a position that's too complicated and using Occam's razor.
I'm not saying he's holding a position that's too complicated. Occam's razor doesn't say that it's too complicated. Occam's razor more classically states, do not multiply objects beyond necessity.
Causes.
So,
all right, but where I think the objection is when he says that intelligence predicts this stuff. I don't think that he can justify that position.
Yeah, Ocean. The reason why I say that intelligence predicts that existence of the universe, material existence, must have always immaterial existence, because intelligence always work in asymmetrical phenomena, asymmetrical, not symmetry. So since the one that we can check is has a material existence, then by using intelligence, it is for sure that there is always an immaterial existence. That's
but
why
at that point you're assuming intelligence, though.
It's because
it seems backward causation is impossible too.
Material universe would be unintelligent by necessity. By using intelligence, one has to has to draw on something else. So he ties intelligence to something other than a material universe. So it's I believe that would be along the lines of John Locke as well.
I mean, I don't know, but let me just say a few things. So Jared sent me a message saying, I just had a nosebleed from listening to Edgar, and then Carrie said, "I can't thank you enough, Steve. Until now, I have never considered taking my own life." So that's where we're at right now. So I'm glad everyone is at least on the same page on that. But since you seem to understand this better, Christopher, and like I said, it's probably the hair. If I'm understanding correctly, and I cannot believe I'm actually going to get close to understanding Edgar for the first time. When it comes to his position, do you see it as just a baseless assertion that basically he's defining intelligence and using that word in such a way as there can be?
I think that he's using intelligence in a way that's a weasel word. I think that's one of the problems of how he approaches it. It's definitely a weasel word.
I don't think. Well, I don't know Edgar's motivation behind it. That's the problem. So I don't want to say on that regard. In regards to the philosophy, however, I don't think it is, because it is very much it is very much the same way that, I mean, ancient Greeks and even even some philosophers even today would use it.
Do you think he's going that deep though?
I know Neoplatonists that would use it in that sense to regard as well.
But Edgar is a Christian.
That doesn't excuse it. I mean, Thomas Aquinas was a Christian, but he was well noted for trying to merge Christianity and Aristotelian philosophy.
Sure, but I don't know if that's what Edgar is doing.
Well,
this is why I'm really confused.
Yeah, and that's why. And that's why I don't want to speak on behalf of Edgar's motivations. I personally don't see anything malicious about it.
Well, obviously, I'm not going that far.
Malicious. This question is like, well, whether or not, like, God damn it. I see what Chris is saying, and I see what Reds is saying. This is one of the things that I love about Edgar, is that he can create this kind of conversation.
For fuck's sake. Look, I'm just trying to say, like, because it honestly sounds like to me, and I'm not going to say malicious or whatever, he seemed to have made a one-size-fits-all version of an argument where there can never be any way to falsify it in any way, shape, or form. So basically, let me point to this thing that is clearly a bad design. Oh no, that's actually evidence for the intelligence.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. I mean, but at the same time,
balls that are in a perfect place to get kicked, a throat that can easily choke you to death, brains that can make you saw off your own limbs. I mean, cancer, anal bleeding, constipation.
Trust me, I get where you're coming. I get where you're coming from there. because it was the same. It was the same. That was the same reaction I first had when I read Berkeley.
Cold towards
but the problem
source.
is but
You're
you know, the reality is that the reality is that I don't have much of a problem with it anymore because these situations just happen, especially when talking philosophically. Sure, his opinion it does. It self repairs itself. And it works like that. Honestly, I think that's the sign of a good philosophical argument. Whether or not that he's actually accurate about it in reality is completely different matter, and I don't agree with that.
The reason why I think it quote works is because he's defined it to work in that way. So
that's what you're supposed to do, though.
Well, not just define things; it's to actually figure out what the hell's actually going on, right?
Well, I mean, and he does that. He creates his first you start with your definitions, and then you form an argument based on the definitions, and his argument is a dualist argument. A dualist asymmetrical argument. And it works based on his definitions. Now we can contest him on his definitions of, say, intelligence and stuff.
Right, that's what I was gonna do.
And that would be absolutely fine because I don't agree. I don't necessarily agree with his definitions at all.
Well, the reason why I say it in the way that I do is that the reason why I use the word something, he's defined something to be self-correcting. Now, I don't know what that something is. And because of that vagueness, because of that we don't know what the hell is going on, he can basically say whatever in that place and make it self-correcting by definition, even though we don't know what that thing is.
Well,
so
no, he's clearly defined the things he's talking about. I have specifically asked him in regards to issues.
I don't think that he's clearly defined intelligence, though.
That's the word that I was going to capitalize on because when you talk about intelligence, okay, tell me more, because at this point I'm confused as hell.
Yeah, well, and I was actually also going to ask him about that because his idea of intelligence, as far as I know, is very akin to the idea of logos. So, Mr. ID, would you characterize your idea?
Don't ask the question in such a way that gives him an out. Hold on, no.
How would you?
I see what you're doing. Don't.
Ocean. Shh.
How do you define?
You're like
how
handing
do you
the
define
escape hatch,
intelligence,
you asshole?
Mr. ID, how do you define intelligence?
Okay, I will answer you two answers for one question. Okay, intelligence is first non-intelligence. Non-intelligence is problem solution, or I simply call it symmetrical phenomena. Intelligence is problem solution, or I call it asymmetrical or non-symmetrical phenomena.
What?
Okay.
Well, that would be a sufficient but not a necessary condition.
I'm not sure. So
there are things that display a symmetrical relation that wouldn't be intelligence. So it would be a unnecessary.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm totally confused right now.
No, hold on a second. Because I've been down this road with him a couple of times. So let's see if we can get him to where Christopher can understand. So you're saying that you're talking about problem, solution. Can you explain what problem, solution means?
Okay, I think the best way for me to explain it is to use a concrete and tangible example so that all of us could understand the reality that I'm seeing. Okay, I'm going to bring you to a reality. Okay.
Okay.
When a baby is 0-year-old or 1-year-old, when a baby is hungry and the baby eats, okay, the hungry is a problem, eating is a solution. That is one example of phenomena in reality. When a baby problem eats solution, for me that is called non-intelligence. So because our body, you don't have to use your mind to think for eating. It's like an automatic that when you are hungry and you eat, it's non-intelligence. But when a mature person when a mature person is hungry, and that a problem, would like to solve the problem by using a solution, a mature person who will be using his mind will surely use solution and another solution to solve that problem of hungry. So by using empirical evidence that we normally use in science, that anybody could test, that anybody experience, I concluded that by simple analogy, by simple example in reality, thought experiment, that non-intelligence is always problem solution, or I call it symmetrical phenomena, and intelligence is always problem solution. This one is like a summarized definition. So beyond that, there will be no definition. There will be no definition beyond that. Okay.
Okay, so so unintelligence.
Real quick. Steve's getting on my ass, so I gotta do this shit. We're gonna read some super chats real quick. We got Mexican's Wrath, $1.99 says nobody cares about Mr. ID. Red's back.
Oh fuck.
And, let's see. Over here we got Mo, who got $5. He's levying an accusation at Edgar. He says that Edgar is trying to maintain his work visa. There's evidence he's producing these books with poor grammar and bad assertions to stay where he lives. Beyond that, we don't have any more super chats, so I guess we can jump right back into it, guys. Go ahead.
Steve, you owe me $2, you fuck.
Okay, so from what I got, unintelligence is basically unconscious, I would say animalistic or instinctive, in purely natural, I guess in that sense. And whereas intelligence is an ability to problem solve with multiple and find multiple solutions or ways to solve something.
Basically, it's not intelligence if you feel pain after getting hit in the fucking face, but it is intelligence when you go to the doctor to actually do something about it.
Right, exactly.
Okay, how does all of that point to God?
Are you asking me?
Yes, yeah. I'm asking anybody who understands you.
Like, so it's with that intelligence explanation, Edgar, how's that pointing to God?
Okay, by using that explanation, I could, because intelligence is always asymmetrical. Problem, solution, three phenomena. Okay, three phenomena. So I am a Christian. So if I'm going to apply that to Jesus Christ or to God of Christianity, we believe that God is in a Trinity. At least Trinity. So problem, solution. There are a perfect intelligent agent must have always a three phenomena, something like that, or three person or whatever. So I didn't invent that. Based on the way I see reality through the definition of intelligence, I concluded quickly that the only creator or intelligent agent that should be used in physics and biology, in chemistry, in cosmology, in quantum mechanics is none other than Jesus Christ or the God of the Bible. Because intelligence cannot change unless we change intelligence, then the prediction of intelligence for three phenomena will be wrong. So that's why I have a confidence that when I say that the creator of the universe, the existence of the intelligent agent is none other than the God of the Bible. I cannot accept Allah, because Allah is only living in a spirit, only one phenomena, or other gods are maybe two phenomena. But intelligence is always three: problem, solution. That's why in my limit of intelligence, I use 3 as maximum for the perfect intelligence as the maximum limit. That's why it's my own what should I say, convention of showing the maximum intelligence.
I'm just still trying to get hold of this. Is he trying to say that if there is only one solution to one problem, it's not intelligent, but if there is at least 2 solutions to one problem, it is intelligent?
Correct. But by summary, yes, correct.
And
Perfect.
since there's a problem and 2 solutions, that's 3 things, which happens to match the number of the Trinity.
Correct.
Therefore,
So hang on a second.
I don't think that it logically follows.
I want to jump on this point though. In the Trinity, which one's the problem and which one's the two solutions?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Does the problem solution thing that you're proposing, that because there is three components to that, and that three components matches the fact that there is three components in the Trinity.
Yes.
Which part of the Trinity is the problem, and which part of the Trinity is a solution?
Well, if by using the Bible said that Jesus Christ has a physical being, material things, but God the Father is a spirit, and the Holy Spirit is spirit. So my analogy is very simple. That the problem in my analogy is Jesus Christ, and the solution is the Father and the Holy Spirit. It's obvious.
By the way, I'm back, but I can't talk loud. But I got to tell you, this was the best walk I've ever had in my entire life listening to this. I'm dying laughing. It's just great. Chris, I got to tell you, you are brilliant, by the way. You are definitely the Mr. ID idiot whisperer of all time. Sorry, you've been dethroned. Chris, the mere fact that you even were even to come close to it, to even make anything sensible,
Steve,
I'm in awe. I'm in fucking awe.
Steve,
right?
Steve, you shut your whore mouth. You brought this on us, okay?
Dude, Chris actually. Granted, Chris was wrong, but because he didn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But he actually tried to make something sensical out of it. That's more than any motherfucker did besides Ocean.
Okay, listen. Am I the only one that's getting this gut feeling that there was a jump made somewhere where I asked them, okay, so it's not intelligence to feel pain when you get hit in the fucking face with a brick, but it is intelligence to go to the hospital and do something about that. How does that point to God? Why am I getting this feeling that that question was not really answered sufficiently?
I also have a really sinking suspicion that when he said something like, you don't need to use your mind to eat. What?
I don't.
Let's see.
I mean, if you don't use your mind, you'll be like you'll be in a vegetative state. I mean, how are you going to eat then?
Also, apparently, do you guys know if the Samsung Note 9 is edible?
Anything's edible. Whether it's digestible or not.
Good point. Good point.
Everything is edible, whether you're going to survive it or not is a different story, I guess, right?
Oh, no battery might explode. Hell of a way to go.
And by the way, Chris, Mr. Edgar, he actually does have 6 books. He had sold 6 of them, and I know one person who bought one who was in the live chat, and that was Red Eye. And I could tell you right now, Red Eye has never been the same since he read it. He shakes at night. He cries a lot. He wants to be held a lot more than usual. And he's an Aussie. He's a strong man, but he even broke down and just lost his shit. He couldn't handle it.
Literally have people contemplating taking their own life tonight, Steve.
I feel bad.
I hope you're happy.
No, you don't. You don't feel bad.
Yeah, Carrie, how are you feeling today, man?
I'm doing okay. I'm just imagining how horoscopes, people can see how it matches their life because they're written. So I don't know. My props to Christopher, but I'm seeing the horoscope phenomenon.
Carrie,
honestly,
you guys want to
Steve, funny? Steve, you've popped his Edgar cherry.
I did. I popped a lot of cherries.
It's
funny, Carrie.
You.
Honestly, right now, I don't know what to think of the fact that I'm able to interpret Mr. ID.
I'm afraid for you.
It does.
Because Christopher, let me explain this to you. Mr. ID actually had a conversation with Kent Hovind one time, and Kent left. He literally couldn't take it. They're both young Earth creationists. So what does that tell you?
Okay.
He was too crazy for Kent.
Okay. Let's see.
That's amazing.
Right.
Let me ask
Mr. ID. Okay, on some level, now you're kind of a hero of mine. Like
Christopher, that is one thing you do not want to say. That's something you do not want to go to bed on. Don't go there. Do not go there. Okay. I want you to imagine a puppy. Now imagine that puppy getting stabbed. That's where you're going. Okay.
I don't like puppies.
Imagine a kitten. Now imagine that kitten getting stabbed. That's where you're going.
That works.
Okay, there, better. Okay. So So
okay. Well, can I say something? I mean, the reason why some of you are very hesitant, are very negative to the topic of intelligence, because you are always you're always thinking about religious application of intelligence. Well, the religious implication of intelligence is my personal view based on how I interpret reality on the definition of intelligence.
Yeah,
but if you apply that to biology, for example, for a cell, or for cell, then you could easily differentiate. You could easily tell if cell is intelligent design or not by using the definition of intelligence that I showed you.
Yeah, but everything that you're telling me, see, my biggest problem is that everything you're telling me is inherently worthless. Nothing you tell me is going to get me any closer to finding the cure for cancer or finding a better way of getting objects in orbit.
And the problem I have is that while your cosmological model for your universe is internally consistent, I don't think that either of your definition for intelligence actually gets you anywhere close to establishing God or establishing that your universe is yet intelligently designed. Yes, it has the layers that you have set up necessary for that, but it doesn't actually logically follow yet that this is intelligently designed by a God or anything.
First, I can reply. The reason why I am sharing you that kind of explanation, because probably I am wrong. Okay, because probably I am wrong of my definition of intelligence based on the way I see reality. But until now, from the time of Darwin or to the time of Isaac Newton, nobody had ever nailed, has no conclusive scientific explanation of intelligence. Nobody, except me. So
I contest that.
I would highly contest that, because Locke had, or not, was it Locke? Steve, Locke, was Locke blank slate and all that?
What about John Locke?
Was Locke the blank slate and everything?
Oh shit, I don't. Are we in Tabula Rasa?
Yeah.
I don't remember that was from John Locke or not.
Okay. I'm gonna say Locke. If I'm wrong, someone in the comments.
It could be.
But I mean, there have been theories and philosophical arguments of intelligence all over. I mean, Berkeley's entire argument is based off of basically a self-sustained mind in a way, that being God, and then God's mind sustains ours, because to be is to be perceived. But to say that no one has ever had any idea of intelligence or argument for some kind of intelligence is just wrong.
There's
but
plenty.
That's only problem solution, Christopher.
Yeah, there's plenty of explanations for quote intelligence and how it came about.
By the way, has he?
Yes, correct, Reg. Correct, Reg. You're right. The research definition of intelligence so far, from the best scientists, from the best minds that we have, is 71 definitions. One word has 71 definition.
And you just added an eighth.
Yeah.
No. My definition is summarized, has summarized them all.
I would
even
definitely not agree with that.
Well, even if he has summarized them all, it doesn't make his 72nd definition correct.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's no implied meaning for these things above what we give them, right? I mean, there's nothing internalized in a word. There's no intrinsic meaning to anything. I mean,
right.
A stipulative definition or not, I think it's nonsensical. I'm happy with just saying what intelligence is, the application of knowledge, but I'm fine with that.
Right. Mr. One thing I do want to know is that, Mr. ID, I am glad that you said that you could definitely be wrong. That is nice. But I mean, your position is completely built upon your specific, very specific definition of intelligence. I'm just going to say that scientifically, there isn't actually a consensus on what it means to be intelligent.
Yeah,
we don't even have
that.
a consensus on what it means to be conscious.
Yeah, Christopher, the reason why we don't have our science today cannot nail the topic of intelligence because of evolution. There was an effect of evolution. Remember when Darwin had explained reality and biology, he did not separate intentional to non-intentional. He did not discuss intelligence to non-intelligence. What he said, just everything in the whole entire existence, the phenomena that we are seeing here are all natural selection. In other words, intelligence and non-intelligence, they're all the same. No categorization.
No, he actually did say that.
Wait, let me finish. Therefore, we cannot nail the topic of intelligence because we have already a pre-concluded and pre-assumption in reality that everything has no boundary, no dividing line.
That
That's
was
why
quite. Well, and ID, the thing is that you're making quite a big jump off of something that Darwin actually never said. Can you please provide me with the quote where Darwin actually said, "Oh, we can just combine intelligence and non-intelligence," or anything related to that at all?
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter, though, because we don't even use Darwinian evolution.
Yeah, I think Edgar has never got the concept down that the theory of natural selection by Darwin is nothing we use. We haven't used that in 100 years. Matter of fact, it wasn't even a confirmed model. It was just let me finish, Edgar.
Okay.
And you make a critical mistake. One of the things that Darwin did was explain teleonomy, right? And so we have a teleonomic explanation, teleometry, that we don't have to have a teleological explanation for intelligence. We don't have to have something beyond that which is natural. We can say, here's the designer, it's nature, it's teleonomic rather than teleological, and that's what evolution did. It didn't do anything besides say, look, here is a naturalistic explanation for phenomenon biodiversity. And then we improved upon that, and the theory of evolution now is modern evolutionary synthesis combined with descent with modification. We don't use Darwin's theories on natural selection anymore. In fact, natural selection to me isn't even very explanatory. I do subscribe to Photo's argument. I think there's some legitimacy to say that natural selection isn't really a great theory. It doesn't explain much.
Let me explain. Let me explain, Steve. This is the problem, because when Darwin had talked about the eye, he used two phenomena. Actually, here in my computer, I'm showing you. I can show you the third edition of the Origin of Species that he was talking about. The eye has two phenomena: simple and complex, perfect and non-perfect. Remember this. When you talk two phenomena in reality, you must have a dividing line for those two phenomena. Intelligence and non-intelligence is another phenomena, but they are opposite.
Well, they didn't mean it in the same way, though.
Let me finish. Simple and complex are two phenomena in reality, in biology. But the conclusion is that everything are natural selection, therefore nature did it. Meaning you don't have categorization, you don't have boundary line, you don't have. That's why for you, intelligent is the same as is non-intelligent, that's the same as complex, the same as simple.
Edgar, first of all.
Okay. So here's where you're getting hung up, Edgar, though, is that when Darwin is using terms like simple and complex, he's using it very colloquially, A. And then B, they are the idea that something is more complex or more simplistic biologically than something else is in and of itself actually nonsensical.
But Christopher, in science, when you are explaining a reality in science, you cannot use the name in colloquial whenever you are using two phenomena, because you are explaining reality.
Okay.
That is why for me Darwin was messing science when he wrote The Origin of Species. I have the copy of third edition here downloaded, and I can show you. We must go to the root of the error of our reality.
Edgar, I have a super chat. Let me read this. Cajun Crustacean 666. I've been listening to this while driving. Please don't get an accident over this. So not to be able to chat, but Mr. Intelligence design or arguments have my brain feeling about like Spider-Man at the end of Infinity War. I by the way, I understand that this is traumatizing to a lot of people, and I apologize. I'm not going to pay for your medical, just FYI. But Edgar, let me explain something really basic.
What we're actually saying is, we don't want you to get into an accident, but if you did, we would understand why.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be held morally accountable. But do you realize that natural selection is only one evolutionary process in biology? There's other things out there that we take into account: genetic drift, migration, which is gene flow, many other processes, right? I mean, natural selection doesn't really do any heavy lifting, as they say in biology. And so I think you're 150 years out of date on some of your argumentation here.
Yeah, and,
Darwin, basically Darwin's whole thing can be boiled down to not intelligence or intelligence or anything like that. Darwin basically said, hey, listen, throughout time, shit happens. If you can't adapt to shit, then you are going to not be able to pass on your genetic material, basically. Right. That's literally the end of it.
Yeah, and Sandra, $20, woohoo, for marathon chats. Yeah,
right, and then it's then that stupid idea of simple and complex, because it's just like, if you take two different human beings, each with their own genetic mutations and differences, which one's more complex? I mean, it's a nonsensical idea.
Complex and simple in biology is the way I understand it.
Yeah,
a cell would be simple, right? But a complex organism, a multicellular eukaryote, is going to be a eukaryotic animal is going to be a lot more complicated, right? So we're complex, but a single cell, simple. But we can have complexity in nature. There's something called ratcheting, where you can take a localized decrease in entropy in order to make something more complex. The snowflake would be a great example. And so in biology, the complexity becomes a reality because over time, you have a local decreased entropy, and the sun is actually going to increase in entropy because we're an open system. So as we have a localized decrease in entropy, the sun has an overall net increase. That is how we have complexity arise in biology. It's nothing mystical. It doesn't require a deity, and it certainly doesn't require intelligence. It's just a matter of entropy.
I also want to bring up one thing.
Can I reply? Can I reply, please?
Sure thing. But I need to ask you one question. Answer this at the end. Have you ever heard of something called the game of life? Go.
Absolutely.
The game of life?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of something called the game of life? It's on a set grid pattern that extends infinitely in all directions.
It's a
well, I can speak English, but I have my own explanation of game of life, but I don't know about you. I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, Edgar, it's a program. The game of life is a program that has certain rules, and according to certain rules, life will be generated. What they're calling life is pixels. Is basically just pixels you see on the screen, but how they interact with each other causes certain formations, and that life and death.
What it was meant to show is that even though the rules are very simple, therefore simplicity, as in not complex, more complex structures can come about from those very simple rules.
Yep.
But we need to remember that you see the error when you talk about reality in biology, and you are trying to use two phenomena. Why didn't you use intention to non-intention or intelligence to non-intention and apply it to biology?
Has nothing to do with it. Intentional or not intentional has absolutely nothing to do with it. Basically, shit happens whether we like it or not. It wasn't at the discretion of any one thing or any one entity. It literally just happened. The reason why we were able to survive and the reason why the dinosaurs did it is because they weren't able to survive a blast from an asteroid striking the Earth at 20 miles per second.
Yeah, there's no intentionality in evolution.
That is a conclusion. Before you say that conclusion in science, before you say that conclusion in science, you must first show that was really happening. That there's no intention in science. For example, the cell.
I'm talking about
intention.
Because how do we draw intention from an asteroid striking the Earth?
But intelligent design is a conclusion, and you can't show that intelligent design had a part in evolution or anything like that.
And by the way, I liked what Chris said earlier about Occam's razor. The law, law of parsimony is pretty simple. You don't try to add necessarily complexity as far as your assumptions, right? But it has to have equal explanatory power, and it has to have equal predictability even to apply law of parsimony. So when you're talking about intelligent design, one, it adds unnecessary. You don't multiply your axioms, which it does. And two, Mr. D, it does not explain a goddamn thing. Just by positing intelligence, just by positing ID, it adds no explanatory power. It's like saying, well, you know what? My shoe did this. Okay, well, what does that explain? Not a goddamn thing.
If I were to ask you a question, using what you have brought forth tonight, can you get me any closer to understanding how, like, for example, the Earth was formed?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you. Based on everything that you have discovered or invented or wrote a book about, whatever you wish to go with, how does that get me closer to understanding, like, how the Earth was formed?
Well, for me, I never studied that well, but I always believe, based on intelligence, that the universe and the Earth is formed intelligently.
What does that mean?
Intelligent.
It means that the universe and the Earth was designed carefully so that our human being could live.
Okay, so let me ask you
what makes you say that?
Hang on, I got a great question for Mr. ID. I have two Earths that I'm looking at. One is intelligently designed. The other is non-intelligently designed. What do you use to determine one over the other? What criteria do you say that the Earth I'm looking on the right is intelligent line and the Earth on the left is non-intelligent line? How do I make that distinction?
If there is an existence, for example, we human being must exist on the planet. So if a planet is Earth and life exists here just like human being, then therefore the Earth is intelligent design.
That doesn't follow.
That does not follow
and
at all.
That doesn't follow. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it follows.
Mr. Tell me,
because
do you know what the term cerebus paribus means? It means all things being equal. So if I have two Earths, right, one exactly the same as the other, what distinction do you use besides, humanity? Well, humanity exists on both, but I have two Earths. How do I make the distinction?
And they are both designed. So if they are the same, by definition, A equals A, then they are intelligent design.
I'd like to posit something very simple here. I mean, ID is just put forward something saying like, if there is life on there, therefore it's intelligently designed. Edgar, do you believe the sun was intelligently designed?
Yes.
There's no life on it.
But there is no life on there. I mean, everything, if there ever was life on there, it would have been incinerated.
No, because an intelligent agent who would like to create life like us, human being, in his sun, therefore he will create both. He will create the Earth and he will create the sun.
Yeah, so, but there is no life on there. So you said that life is necessary for it to be intelligent.
No, what I'm trying to say is that based on in a group of design that because we are talking a different topic now.
All right, let me ask you this. What if there was a sun, but there was no Earth? So let's just say a star was formed. Was that star that is not the home solar system for any life form whatsoever, was that particular sun intelligently designed?
No.
Okay, and now let's go ahead and just look at the sun on its own and another star that is sun-like. We have no idea of what planets are around it. We have no idea of their orbits. We have no idea of their history. We just know that we're dealing with two great big balls of hydrogen that are in a state of fusion. How do you tell design from not designed?
Exactly.
Well, the first thing for categorization of any X in the universe, where I call it the hardest one, is to assume that non-design, because
that's not answering the question.
The first question is non-design, but by further checking, if assuming that we have a powerful telescope that we can see that beside that the sun that you're talking about is there's a planet that has life form, then we can easily conclude that that sun is designed. So
I'm talking about
before you make a conclusion in your categorization of any X in the entire universe, you must check first. Okay,
wait. If all suns are designed, how do you tell an undesigned sun? If all stars are designed, what would an star that is not designed look like?
Exactly. That's the question. How do I differentiate just by looking at the star itself? How do I differentiate between a designed star and an undesigned star?
No. In my categorization, I always assume that non-intelligent.
So you can't tell. So you cannot
No,
tell.
Yes, of course. Yes, of
not.
course. You must.
He's essentially being intelligently agnostic on yeah, I know, on whether or not that particular star was designed or not designed,
and
until they could find life.
I love that statement.
Shut up, Ocean.
I love it.
You've been a fucking hand grenade in this goddamn hangout all night long.
What are you talking about throwing a hand grenade in here? You're the one that threw the hand grenade. I just pulled the pin.
Steve, you shut your whore mouth. You're guilty.
You don't blame me for this shit.
Yeah, it's true. I
just emceed the grenade. You literally dropped it and walked out of the fucking room and left me to deal with it. And if I'm gonna be the one to blow up a grenade, I'm gonna do it goddamn well, and you goddamn well know it.
Ocean, how about you shut up, because he left me to translate what this guy's saying. And I've been sitting here
I tried to direct that shit at Carrie, who has gone off God knows where.
Can I just say I hate all of you?
Christopher, you seem to have been having a really good time trying to translate Mr. ID. I'm really glad you finally been converted.
I am going to be honest.
And not only that, were you having fun? I was having fun watching you do it. It was great.
And I was walking a mile listening, so it was great. But let me read the super chat.
And Steve's walk turned into a roll because he couldn't stop laughing.
I literally was watching this on my phone as I walked my mile. Paul Ward, $6.66. Earlier, any prob with more than one solution is not intelligent. Now we have limitless possible solutions to Earth and its life. Yeah, matter of fact, if you look at the linear equations, there's 3 states of linear equation you can have, right? And Eulogy, back me up. You can either have no solutions, one solution, or an infinite number solution, but you can't have 2 solutions to a linear equation. Okay, so Mr. ID, you're saying that something with more than one solution is not intelligent, but there's an infinite number of solutions to a linear equation, or there's none, or there's one. I mean, there's just no other possibilities. So I don't know what you mean by that. But do you think like birth defects are intelligent design? Do you think God has said, I want birth defects to be
back to my original question I asked over an hour ago.
Steve, we've already covered that.
Oh, did he? What do you say on
that? So his
nothing that makes sense.
His view of the natural world is he calls it an asymmetrical world, and that basically it's in a way dualist. So if there is genetic function, there must be genetic defect as well.
Yeah, I think that's a bullshit way of looking at it, though. But anyways, Justin James, $2 is a black hole considered genius star to Edgar, and we also had one back here that I did miss. By Athena. He studies more than I do. No, I don't think Edgar really studies. I just think he has a language barrier because he speaks 3 languages. So
well, let me try this.
No, it's not quadratic.
I honestly have one important question for Edgar.
Oh fuck!
You guys may not know this, but Edgar, could you explain to us what a snorzon is, or snoron? Snoron?
A snooze-on.
Snooze-on, you're talking about.
Snooze-on, yes. What is the snooze-on?
Oh my god, you really going to do this to us?
Squeeze-on?
Not a squeeze-on, but a snorzon. Let's start with squeeze-ons because photons lead to squeeze-ons, which lead to snorzons, if I remember correctly.
In my physics books, I said that gravity is just a squeezed space.
Oh,
whenever there is space and you put a massive object on that space, around that surface of that massive object, this space is being squeezed.
Oh god!
And I call that a squeeze-on, or we call it gravity.
Oh god!
Squeeze-on is my favorite fucking word.
Are we going full flat Earth here, where I have to break out the?
Not yet. Edgar, how does a photon turn into a snorzon?
Well, okay. Based on my analogy about proton, the space is composed of proton. Okay. Space
What?
is composed of proton. Inactive
Photons.
Photon. PHOTON.
Okay, so space is comprised of photons.
Space is
What?
just an active or inactive proton.
Okay.
Don't worry.
And just make sure gravity in your paradigm, because I looked at, I've talked to you. Gravity in your paradigm is a pushing force, not something not because of a short geodesic path between 2 points in curved space-time. You believe that gravity literally is a pushing force, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just wrap your head around this, people. This is Edgar.
Because it was Michio Kaku who said that the space is pushing us toward the Earth, and we call it gravitational pull. But actually, it was the gravity that's pushing us toward the Earth. That's why we thought it was a pull, but it was pushing.
Einstein literally is crying.
But why do you subscribe to Michio Kaku when there's nobody else who says the same thing?
And
because he said reality, because by using that we can predict the bending of light, we can predict the gravitational wave, we can
wait, hang on a sec. Before you go any further, how is this done? How is it, if gravity is something that is pushing instead of pulling or whatever?
Push-ons. Like bras.
How? Shut up, Steve. Shut up. How does that help determine how light bends?
It's very simple.
Must be.
It's very simple. I always said the trampoline. Okay, the trampoline is one example. Is one example of a bending light. Okay, so the gravity. I give this example to Landon Cartnell because he did not understand it, but I will going to give it to you again.
I don't blame Landon for not understanding it. Trust me. He's one of the smartest men I know. So.
But he did. But okay, based on Michio Kaku, Einstein, and me, and the way we understand gravity.
Wow,
I love that. Can you say that again? Just play that again.
I will say it again. I will say it again.
Need that on record.
Yeah, Einstein, Michio Kaku, and me. Okay.
Hold on. Edgar, speaking of Landon Cartnell, there's recently a challenge proposed to you by Red Eye of a debate. Now, this debate, I really want to happen. So, this Monday, it will be, let me get your exact time for you, okay?
While you do that, real quick.
At 7 a.m. Japanese Standard Time, Tuesday, I want you, okay, for a debate with Red Eye. Most likely the moderator will be Landon.
Wait, has Red Eye?
Well, I
I thought you were talking about Red's rhetoric for a second.
One sec, I actually.
I'm seeing Red Eye in the chat right now yelling "Fight me!" So I assume he consents to this.
Yeah, I actually.
Yes.
I think he has. Jared wants something on his channel at 7 Japan time on Tuesdays. I want to.
That is my show. Yes.
Okay.
That is my show.
Okay, because I sent that to Mr. ID so he can read that about that. I did ask him because I told Jared that I would ask him. But Mr. ID, do you think that whenever scientists talks colloquially that it's the case? For example, if a scientist says, "Well, black hole sucks in everything around it," do you actually think that they mean that it literally sucks in? Because a black hole does not suck at all.
You don't even need to go for a black hole. You can just simply ask him about whether or not a vacuum cleaner sucks.
Yeah. A vacuum cleaner doesn't suck, Dave.
Well, actually, it's in the way I view space and gravity, and Michio Kaku and Einstein view gravity. We could easily explain black hole in a simple explanation by using materials here on Earth. It's simple.
What?
Okay. Please tell me how you would
talking-
accomplish that.
Yeah,
We're talking about the guy who's boasting that he can explain black holes, even though he thinks probability goes to 3. And and the first time we explained Pythagoras's triangle, he had no idea what the fuck we were talking about.
All I can say is that I can no longer translate him.
Chris,
and I'm going to go hang myself with my shirt.
Steve.
Yes.
All right, let me say something. First of all, Chris, don't do that unless it's on camera. Make some money while you're dying. Second, Okay, Mr. Intelligent Design, you mentioned gravitational waves and stuff like that. So you mentioned like this push on or whatever and stuff like that. So tell me this. How does an interferometer work with your theory?
What theory?
Of a push on. What is the interferometer actually detecting?
For the gravity waves, LIGOs.
The gravity wave. The gravity waves, right?
Correct. Yes, that's what LIGOs is actually there to
squeeze
say.
on, right? Not a
Squeeze
push
on. Squeeze on. Whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't
And the gravitational waves, not gravity waves. There's a big
Yeah, because our scientists had used I think, neutron stars, and they move together to each other, and they create waves. Okay, so the wave is fluctuating, and they measure the differences of fluctuation of the wave in a very small distance, and they found out that there's really a wave. I mean, the space is really fluctuating based on the neutron stars movement. So you don't understand? It's simple.
I'm trying to see how what you're saying is going to differentiate me from just regular Newtonian or Einsteinian gravity.
No, what Einstein had seen about gravity is very simple, because he's in a gravity. Do you see? According to, if you are going to picture it out here on Earth, assuming that space is like a bathtub, okay, a swimming pool, and then it's a fixed volume, okay, fixed volume, and then you put one inside the fixed volume of the swimming pool filled of water, a heavy object, for example, a bowling ball with there's no hole, okay, there's no hole, one ball. So
what?
Let me explain.
He's trying to recreate his egg experiment with a bowling ball and a swimming pool instead now.
Okay. Let me explain. And then when you put inside that fixed volume of water of the water, what to say?
I was asking about gravitational waves.
About a bowling ball, and in the surface of that bowling ball, the water is being pressed. There's a pressure on the surface, and that we call gravity. That is the gravity.
I'm talking. Let me repeat the question. No, let me repeat the question because I think it was
chat to read after this question. So go ahead.
Sounds good to me. Okay, so at LIGO they detected gravitational waves. Okay, what are they actually detecting that gives them that reading when it comes to your what did we call it, a squeeze on? What does a squeeze on do to the laser that they're using at LIGO? And how, like, what are they actually measuring? What are they actually seeing?
There's a space of photons, is what.
Look at Peg. I did not ask you. Shut the fuck up.
Listen, I know what he's trying to say.
Yeah, the squeeze that I'm saying here in my example is a squeeze, and a squeeze space on any surface of an object inside a space. So I used the word squeeze because they were squeezed. But when you have two neutron stars, they are circling up to each other, then the space to the two stars are fluctuating. They are moving. They're moving like a wave. So we can detect that wave. We can detect that wave here on Earth by using an interferometer by LIG or by LIGO. So that's why you can easily predict that when you can easily use that explanation by using water inside the swimming pool. If you have two balls, just rotate it together, then you will create movement inside the water, and you can predict it. You can detect it.
So basically, nothing you're telling me differentiates from just regular gravitational theory at this point.
Yeah, I told you I did not invent. I said the way Einstein see it, the way Michio Kaku see it, the way I see it, we are the same.
What
you're
here?
Here's the thing: in a cave, you wouldn't have any gravity. Okay? In a cave without the photons, you would not have gravity.
In this way, I know exactly where you're getting it from. Michio Kaku did a documentary where he said, while walking through the streets of New York City, after he was explaining how big the universe was, that gravity is not pulling me down, gravity is actually pushing me down. You kind of miss the context in which he made the statement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and also as it is known to everyone that actually knows their shit, especially me because I deal with flat earthers who don't understand the first fucking thing about gravity. It's not characterized as a push or a pull. Yes, we may say gravitational push or pulls just to simplify things for the layperson, but gravity itself is neither pushes nor pulls. It's not defined in that way.
That's very, very correct. It's basically.
Of course, I agree with that.
Wait. ID, listen. What
Okay.
Red said is critical that you understand this because you don't understand this. What gravity is, the way Einstein looks at it, and the way any person who's ever looked into this will understand it, is the fact that you are moving through a non-Euclidean space, and light and anything else has to take the shortest geodesic path between 2 points. And that's what gravity is.
Exactly.
It's a bending of space-time where you have to take the shortest distance. And by the way, Justin James, $5 super chat, says, Edgar, where does the sombrero topology of kinetic potential, that is the gravitation within the Higgs interaction, come from? Squeeze-ons or push-ons? And by the way, that is a great question because if you understand what the Mexican potential is, when it comes to it's called the Mexican hat or sombrero, I guess. When it comes to the Higgs field, do you understand, Mr. ID, that topology, that existence of the metastable false vacuum, and you have what's called spontaneous symmetry breaking, is because of what? I don't. In your paradigm, what causes that sombrero topology of kinetic energy? And you can get into Lagrange transformations or Lagrange in mechanics, but what causes that in your paradigm? The squeeze-ons or the push-ons or what? It's
There's
bizarre.
certainly squeeze-ons, photons, and snooze-ons. So,
Well,
yeah,
can
because
can I speak? Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
The reason why I trying to explain about that because I am trying to explain in quantum mechanics about the theory of everything. Okay, the theory of everything.
I want to clarify for people. By the way,
because we are trying.
Oh my god, he's not even. He doesn't even get classical Newtonian mechanics.
Exactly.
I mean,
he doesn't understand anything about quantum.
Okay, when it comes to physics,
I can't talk loud. Edgar, before you even touch quantum mechanics, don't you think you should have a handle on classical? And by the way, I want to point out for people, Christopher especially, Edgar claims to be a civil engineer. Okay, and yet we have asked him questions as basic as what is the derivative of x squared, and he's completely clueless. As a matter of fact,
Steve, I was just talking not too long ago that he didn't even know what Pythagoras' triangle was.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a claims to be a civil engineer, but he doesn't know the basics of physics and science, and I find that to be disconcerting because that's dishonest.
Let's try this. Okay, Edgar, I'm going to give you an equation. It's going to be wrong. I want you to tell me what's wrong with it. F equals m1 m2 over r to the second. How is that equation incorrect?
Crickets.
Okay. My focus here is the topic of intelligence. That's what I've discovered. Okay, I don't want to. So
how about something simpler, Mr. ID? Since you don't understand the law of gravity, let me hang on.
I'm going
Mr. ID, do you know what the second law of motion is? I mean, does that make what that is? Newtonian laws.
What did you say?
The second law of motion. The second one.
The second law of motion. F equals ma.
Second law of motion.
F equals ma.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that equation, right? That's a summation, right? All the forces, all the summation of mass times acceleration. If we had to change that acceleration, right? We change that to gravity, right? What do we end up with? What are we talking about then?
Oh, and Steve, I am not I'm a perfect scientist. Okay, I maybe get a mistake about that, but my topic here is intelligence. Okay, you can ask me about intelligence, but because if I will be going to study all of them.
Edgar,
No,
no, because like you were making
so maybe
claims
I
on
have to stop now
Edgar,
because I have to stop.
you were making claims on biology and on
Yeah.
physics as well. If you have no idea of these basic concepts, then you have no right to put forward any claims like these.
Right, and that's our
No,
example.
I only share what I know. I only share what I
But you
know
don't
based
know
on
it.
intelligence.
But
Edgar,
the thing is, Edgar, is that you don't understand it.
Yeah,
I'm a moron when it comes to physics and biology. That's why I haven't been chiming in, because it's not my place to do that. But
You're
I
a
know
philosopher.
I know
gotta-
enough, and I know more than you do, and I know that you are misunderstanding the basic fundamentals of Newtonian physics.
And when you put yourself on the comparison to Einstein, and you don't even have
I think that you guys are all wrong. Edgar is schooling you guys.
Totally schooling.
Where's my
Edgar,
mute?
you can tell me what a squeeze on
Well,
was.
actually, if there is no topic, if your question has no topic in according to my discovery, I think I have to end my conversation right now.
Well,
because
perfectly
okay.
fine with
So
that.
thank you, Steve, for inviting me again.
Edgar,
I'll see you Monday, Edgar.
Edgar, before you leave, I just really want to know, why do you feel like you need to tell people you have a civil engineering degree when we all know that you just don't know basic about engineering? You don't have any math skills. You have no science skills. You know nothing about biology, nothing about physics. Why do you tell people that you have a civil engineering degree?
Yeah, I have a civil engineering degree. But but in the topic of intelligence, I don't want to use that because
I tell you what, Mr.
because my life is
I don't
based on
believe
intelligence.
you. Straight up, I don't believe
no
you.
problem.
Because
You don't believe me.
Let me finish.
Okay, no problem for me. Okay.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Why, do you think that if I said I was a biologist and I didn't know what a cell was, would I have any position to say I'm a biologist? No.
Well,
you have no knowledge of cell engineering.
I told you that my discovery is intelligent. Okay.
But
and
you're
I
lying
applied
to
that.
people.
But
you're lying to people because you do not have a degree in civil
Everyone,
Edgar,
one at a time for
Edgar.
Edgar. Let him fight one battle at a time. It's not fair for you to pile so many arguments onto him at once.
About going.
Edgar,
I don't like that
Edgar,
people. Okay.
Edgar, your credibility goes out the window when you make a claim that you have an education in a certain topic, and yet you can't back up that education with an understanding of that topic.
Well, if I don't want to back up, because for me that is moving the goalpost for me.
How's that?
You see,
there is no moving the goalpost here. We're trying to ascertain your education level, and you do not possess
my life is based on intelligence. Okay, this is me. This is me and forever.
Oh, Edgar, buddy, mate, come on. I've read your book, mate. I've read your book. You've tried to redefine intelligence. You fucking failed miserably because every definition you gave, there's nothing wrong with it because you don't seem to get that you can define intelligence in more than one fucking way. By the way, see you Monday for the egg debate. You're going to be my bitch, Edgar. You're going to be my bitch.
You already
Hang on. So, intelligence design. I'm going to give you just some advice. Okay, the thing that is going to help you in the long run, at least when it comes to a credibility standpoint, is to, before talking about a certain subject, to educate yourself on that subject to the point where you know the fundamental basics. I do not talk about anything to do with evolution or biology, at least all that much, because that is not a field that I'm very familiar with. And I stated multiple times that I actually don't give a flying fuck about the theory of evolution. It's just not an interesting topic for me. So when it comes to that kind of discussion, I let other people take the reins on that. What it seems to me that you're doing is that you're trying to take the reins in topics that you are not very familiar with. It's perfectly fine to be an expert in one thing. So if your thing is redefining intelligence to whatever the fuck you want, stick with that, and you're going to be way ahead of the game. Just come straight out and say, you know what? I don't know anything about Newtonian physics. I know nothing about Einsteinian gravity. I know nothing about the formation of black holes or gravitational waves or how the fuck LIGO works or any of this shit. You know, it's perfectly fine to say that. Believe me, it doesn't hurt you at all. If anything, it adds to you because sometimes less is more.
Well,
it does
Reg,
help.
let me reply. Reg, the topic of intelligence is universal. Okay, but when you apply that to science, to biology, to physics, they are all affected by intelligence. That's why I wrote 6 science books.
You didn't understand
So
what you just said.
that's why I had to write them in the book so that you could read it. You can say if I'm wrong.
You're not even a layperson in some of these topics.
So that's why if you don't accept it, I don't care.
I swear to God, don't
So
make me,
maybe it's the end of our discussion. Okay.
Edgar, I can't talk loud. Please don't make me talk over you. Okay, so listen to me very carefully. What Rez just said is there's nothing wrong with telling people of areas you have no knowledge of. Like, for example, the other day we had a discussion about mythicism, right? Jesus mythicism. I don't know shit from Shinola about that fucking topic. I even said, don't come to me with this topic. I don't know anything about it, right? I'm happy to admit. And I'm not an expert in any fucking topic. However, I have a basic understanding of a lot of different topics, and most experts in their field don't say I'm an idiot when it comes to these things. They at least say I have a generalized understanding. I'm happy with that. Okay, but I'm not an authority. I'm not an expert in anything. I have no expertise in any one subject. But just like Reds, we like a lot of different subjects, right? Some of us excel a little bit more than others. I mean, if you want to ask about photography or space launches and stuff like that, go to Reds, right? He's going to be able to explain these things to you, right? But
yeah,
you,
because
Edgar,
Steve,
I'm not done talking.
Steve,
I'm not
remember
done talking.
that
I'm not done talking. I am not done talking.
Okay.
Nobody should come to you for information about a damn thing. You are not even at the level to comprehend the most basic of things that most of us understood when we were fucking 10 years old.
Well, I don't care about that, but remember, my topic is intelligence, and intelligence rule existence. That's what I'm trying to say.
And it has no
my topic are different from what your topic.
It has
where does neurons involve intelligence, Edgar?
Edgar, your subject of intelligence
I'm
has
sorry, maybe
no
okay, no problem to me. I can
has no application whatsoever in the real world.
The very moment that whatever your version, or better yet, I'm not even going to say version, I'm just going to say, if at any moment any one of your books makes it easier to launch shit into space, you will be the first to know.
Or adds any way to humanity.
Yeah, or adds any, or adds anything to me. The very moment any of your books helps me out in any way, shape, or form, or anyone else that I know in any way, shape, or form, you will be the first to know. I'm just telling you this right now, based on what I've heard from other people who have actually read your books. There is it's more likely that that's not going to happen. Like ever.
Well, you know what? They probably help
there is
with one
something
thing.
he has helped. When it comes to the M drive, you see that's powered by neurons.
Where the fuck is my mute button? Oh wait, hang on a second.
No, but the thing is, anytime we try to get into specifics, try to nail down some really specific detail, Edgar just simply flops and says, "Oh, I don't know."
Right, and that's
I'm still waiting to find out how
exceptionally
photons
revealing.
use neurons.
Yeah, I mean,
what I'm going to say is
this guy. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to dogpile on him, but if he's going to come across as somebody who's going to be an authority to compare himself to Michio Kaku or to Einstein or anybody who's actually done the work, I have to take umbrage. I have to go. Wait a minute. No, now we're just being dishonest.
Well, remember this. Remember this.
Okay,
because
so
the word perspective is a buzzword. Basically, it means I can solve all of my problems when it comes to flat Earth by simply throwing in the word perspective. I think you're using the word intelligence in the exact same way.
Totally agree.
Well, anybody can comment about that. Oh, no problem to me. But I have told you maybe I am wrong. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. That's why if you think that you're right, first you did. Let us speak. If you think that you are right and I am wrong, what I'm asking you there, especially in my science book, is that first tell me what is intelligent. What is intelligent? We can see in reality.
Edgar,
write it in the science book and let us compare.
No, there is no necessity to write a science. Edgar, there is no necessity to write science books in order to be correct about something. But moreover, Moreover, here you've tried to make a comparison between yourself, Einstein, and Michio Kaku. Now the thing is, if I had asked Michio Kaku any of these questions, he would have known them in a flash. The fact that you have no idea, it tells me that you have absolutely no idea of this subject.
Or of Einstein or Michio Kaku.
I think
real quick on this note, I'm going to take off, guys. It was good hanging out with y'all. It's fucking late as
Good
shit for
having
me,
you.
so I'm going to take
So
off.
thanks, Ocean. I appreciate it.
But
5
yeah,
minutes. But
good hanging out with you guys.
Always a pleasure. And we're going to be doing this more often. But Mr. ID, if I asked Michio Kaku about who is going to make more sense, you or anybody else in here when it comes to explaining gravity, who do you think he's going to say is right?
Yeah, bring him in.
No. But who do you think?
Bring him in. And we will agree together.
I might be able to arrange that. But again, who do you think he's going to say?
We need to pay him. We need to pay him.
ID, we've actually have gotten scientists on this show before.
Yes.
Right? It's not just Michio Kaku, a lot of different physicists as well.
Yeah.
No,
and
but
anyone who's going to tell you
Anybody who's talked to you
all of
has
them
really just come away thinking that you're an idiot.
all of them. Every single one of them.
So I don't understand. Even Landon Cardinal couldn't understand a very simple way of explaining gravity by using
Edgar, Landon Cardinal thought you were an idiot.
Yeah, I can tell you right now because I do a show with Landon once a week. Landon thinks you're the dumbest person I think on the planet at this moment. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be disparaging. He knows that you do not know jack shit about any of this.
But when I asked him about the origin of gravity, he couldn't answer questions. That's very simple question.
Origin of gravity.
The origin of gravity.
So I
What kind
explained
of
that in my
question is that?
For fuck's sake.
Yes, because apparently intelligence created origins of gravity. I mean, come on.
You see, if you know reality, you can simply answer that by using Einstein way of using gravity. It's very simple.
No,
Edgar, if you knew reality, you would not say that probability goes to 3.
Yeah, I mean,
maths just does not work that way.
Einstein says nothing about the origin of gravity.
Correct.
And are you familiar with Kolmogorov? He was a Russian mathematician. He's the one that actually set forth a lot of when it comes to computational theory, and probability is between 0 and 1. There's no possibility of being higher than that. It's physically impossible because of your space, your event space.
Well, it's not that. It's definitionally zero
it
means
is
axiomatically 0 means that it's not going to happen.
And axiomatically,
and 1 means it is certain
so it's
to
outside
happen.
the event space. You can't have more than a possibility of happening of 1.
But it's quantum.
This is a basic reality of reality. I mean, anyway.
But I already agreed, Steve.
That's a tautology, by the way.
I already agreed that natural probability has a maximum limit of 1. I always say that many times.
I know that.
But one thing, but you did
non-natural probability. That's this thing.
You see, because
guys,
I discovered.
Guys, I understand where he's trying to. I know where he's trying to come from on this problem solution thing in respects to the probability of going greater than 1. He's wrong on this, utterly wrong on this. The example he previously gave me, this would have been about half a year ago now. He was saying that for the problem of if you are thirsty, the solution is that you will drink water. And then the second solution, which pushes the probability over 1, is that you go and drink something like Coca-Cola or orange juice or something like that. Now, that's got nothing to do with the original probability of you quenching your thirst. If you want to say that the probability of you quenching your thirst using orange juice, that's a whole separate probability, completely separate to the you quenching your thirst using water. So it's not related. You can't just say, I have a 0.8% probability, an 80% probability of drinking water and a 40% probability of drinking orange juice. Therefore, altogether, quenching my thirst is 120%. That makes no fucking sense.
Exactly. I see
they
that.
They are two separate propositions.
Exactly. The two separate events. You're just adding this shit together and saying, oh, look, there's a probability of 3 now. It doesn't work that way.
basically the idea is this, and this is again just some advice. When it comes to biology, don't talk to me about biology. It's you'll be able to do circles. Even dare I say, even you will be able to do circles around me when it comes to biology. But when it comes to like space, astronomy, physics, that kind of stuff, don't fuck with me on that, because I could not watch the movie Armageddon because the part of my brain that likes physics too much just wouldn't allow me to enjoy it.
I
hated gravity.
I thought it was
So
a little bit over the top as far as suspending disbelief.
I had to go on. Okay, I had to stop now. Right now, it's okay. No question
Yeah,
about
all right.
me.
Peace
I'm
out.
going to be ending this, but real quick.
See you Monday, Edgar.
Oh, Jesus
Tuesday,
Christ.
7 a.m.
Okay.
For you.
When Eulogy was saying this, Edgar, if I have like a coin and I flip a coin, is 50-50. The next event, the next thing is 50-50, and the next one after that is still 50-50. What you're doing is saying I'm going to flip a coin 3 times, and I have three, probably 3 that's going to be heads because it was heads the last couple times. It doesn't work that way. You don't add these things together. They're not aggregates, right? So each event is its own event. You can't have a probability of more than one because you're talking about a single event. For a single event, it happens or it doesn't happen.
I'm gonna tell you a source that gave me
You
more
guys-
help than school did. There's a channel that I want you to subscribe to, Edgar. It's called Number File. I want you to subscribe to it. I want you to watch every single video. I want you to become very familiar with it, because believe me, that's going to help you a lot in the long run.
Okay, thank you. But anyway, thank you.
You make some mistakes.
Oh yeah, Edgar, can you do me one last favor? I'm sorry I have to ask this question to you, but just out of curiosity, 0.999 repeating, does that equal 1?
Oh, dude.
And with that grenade.
Why, Red? Why?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It does not equal 1? Oh,
yes.
Fuck my life.
He doesn't accept limitation.
Wait. ID what? Edgar? It doesn't
Zero
equal 1 or does?
0.999 is not 1 because
No.
A equals.
No. Listen carefully. 0.999 repeating.
No, Edgar, don't.
Hang on, everybody. Hang on. I'm going to end this in literally 10 seconds. I just want to get this. Edgar, 0.99 repeating. Does it equal to 1?
No.
Okay. And he claims to be a civil engineer. Good night, all.